Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the NXTGEN Racing GT3 Championship Season 2, as brought to you on the sim racing platform on PC known as iRacing. And tonight we take a look at how our drivers got on in the Apex Racing Academy lobby. That's lobby number 1. Whilst the races took place as of last night, we'll bring you all the post-race action with post-race commentary throughout the entirety of this evening, with the round taking place at the British circuit known as Silverstone, where the series starting its European tour, having travelled around the United States and now moving into Europe. Starting with the British Isles, and we'll be heading into continental Europe following this round, but of course we start first with the home of British motorsport, and what a brilliant circuit to lay host to round number 4. We were of course here in Season 1 with round number 6 with the 2-hour super endurance race, the first of 2 super endurance races, but we're with the more familiar format tonight, and let's take you through that schedule. So our schedule for tonight is as follows. In Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT or UTC. At 8 o'clock in approximately 14 minutes time, we'll be getting underway with the 15-minute qualifying session to determine who is on pole for our sprint race, which will commence immediately after. The sprint race being at 8:15, a 15-minute race. It's all go, all show. Our drivers will be charging their utmost up through the field and trying to score the biggest possible set of points by simply being the fastest out of the circuit. And then following that, it'll be the case that we take a brief break, but first we defer to our post-race interviews with our race winners of the sprint race, and then we will return at 5 to 9 for the build-up to the feature race, the more strategic tactical race, the 60-minute feature with that all-important mandatory pit stop. In the commentary box tonight, you have myself, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit in the Spit, and with regards to being able to watch this broadcast, you can tune in via one of 3 media platforms. Firstly, you can tune in via my personal Twitch channel, that's TX141 on Twitch. Alternatively, if you want to tune in via YouTube, you can tune in via the official NXTGEN Racing YouTube channel, or you can also, if you're Facebook inclined, tune in via Facebook. That's facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. But before we come on to introducing our standings and our drivers once again, it's time to introduce our primary title sponsor for Lobby 1. That's Apex Racing Academy, and let's introduce them. So who are Apex Racing Academy, I hear you ask? Well, Apex Racing Academy is not just a setup shop. They are dedicated to making you better at iRacing with services, access to drivers and features not found on other driving schools and academies. Working with them will see you connecting with pros like never before. You can learn how to prepare for a race, build setups, improve lap times and understand how to use telemetry tools such as VRS. Every week they host multiple sessions where members can join the coaches and take advantage of group coaching sessions, and in partnership with SDK Gaming, all the data provided will be automatically synced directly to your PC. There's no need to go hunting for setup, replay or ghost files, the data is right there when you turn the simulator on. Interested? Then why not sign up now at apexracingac.com. That website again, apexracingac.com. And of course, we're very grateful to Apex Racing Academy for supporting us in running this series and as our primary sponsor and partner, also helping contribute to the major prize pool available to Lobby 1. And indeed, a number of those prizes being Apex Racing Academy prizes. And we look forward to seeing how our drivers get on over the course of this season. Now, speaking of the drivers, it's only appropriate that we come to our standings. So after the opening 3 rounds, the opening quarter of the 12-round championship, the last time we were at Road Atlanta in the United States, and we can see in the pro class, it is the case that Matt Caruana currently leading by only 4 points over his main rival, and that is Billy Fletcher. The two of them, of course, rivals in Season 1, where it was Billy Fletcher in the end who would take the overall championship win in the pro category, but it is the case that right now Caruana, the leader, with Fletcher giving pursuit only 4 points behind. Will these two continue to break away at Silverstone tonight, or will it be the case that the pursuing pack, particularly Rhys Caryl, Håkon Grebstad and Elliott Harper, P3 to P5, will be able to close up and bring that gap down, or potentially usurp the drivers ahead of them? On top of that, do not count out the likes of Tom Edmonds, Jason Landry, Tom Male, Oistein Hereford and James Holman completing our top 10, where these drivers right now still nipping on the heels of the top 5 and all vying for that opportunity to move further up the order. And we'll be particularly keeping our eyes on Jason Landry, the driver known for his consistent performances in the feature race, but of course with those difficult sprint races, and hopefully he'll be able to turn around the sprint race as of tonight. Meanwhile, in the outside of the top 10 in the pro class, we can see it's Mark Fletcher down to 68 points, earnestly pursuing the top 10 and only a couple of points shy, with good performances across both the sprint and the feature race at Road Atlanta. Callum Brandt, meanwhile, having a good performance in the sprint, seeing him in P12 with another 27 points added to his tally, taking him up to 60 points. Kenny Harriman's having a difficult day at the office in the feature, but a positive one in the sprint, and he'll be looking to try and maintain that momentum in the sprint and improve in the feature. Anders Vries Ankerson in P14 now on 51 points, holding on right now against the trio of drivers on 50 points there from P15 to P17. That's Dadswell, McKeown and also Fairclough. Now, special points should be made to Luke McKeown, who's in P16, having made his debut in the series as of Road Atlanta and taking a very strong point, so almost the perfect evening bar the P3 in the feature race. But he was the fastest man out on circuit by a significant margin, and can McKeown once again today show his speed and pull off a brilliant set of results? Could he even go for the perfect set of results, which only a limited number of drivers have done so far in this series? And the perfect result, of course, is when you take pole in qualifying, take the win in the sprint, and also take the win in the feature and get the fastest lap in both races. It's a mean feat nonetheless, and a difficult one to do. Deegan Fairclough there in P17 completing that trio of 50 points drivers, and then we have Robert Dasunik, Tony Vashat and Daniel Blomqvist completing our Pro Championship. Outside of the pros, moving down to our second class, that's the Pro-Am class, of course, our second of 3 classes here. We can see Callum Reid Garton once again having a brilliant night of racing, and particularly at this time picking up the perfect night at Road Atlanta, with pole position, fastest lap in both races, and the wins in both races, with that overtaking the last 5 minutes of the feature race against Ben Hicks, seeing him take the maximum points all. His lead now 135 points, almost 40 points clear of his pursuers, 39 points to be exact, and Ed will being the primary driver, the CXR Project Black driver, to chase after Reid Garton going into tonight. But Anthony Beck, Paul King, and Jakob Boschoff and Jean-Louis Deschamps all wanting to give pursuit as well for the top 2, if not that opportunity to be the main contender to chase after Reid Garton and reel him in. But we can see outside of our top 5, Jean-Louis Deschamps there on 84 points. He'll have something to say about that. And Daniel Holmer there in P7 on 72 points. A bit of a gap between himself and Deschamps of 12 points, but nonetheless a gap he can overcome. Ben Hicks, Matthew Hodges and Jeremy DeBover completing our top 10 there, with Jeremy DeBover having another difficult day in the sprint race but recovering well in the feature race and now up to 65 points. And outside our top 10 in the Pro-Am, it is the case Phil McDougall leading the campaign to get into the top 10 there in P11, currently on 64 points. Lucas Romano and DD Verlaming there, separated by only 2 points, both having non-finishes in the feature race. And as we look a bit further down their dirt bouts, and James Slate's completing our top 15, and it's Stephen Norman, Colin Martin, Andrew Lovesey, Hackenshot, and lastly Peter Lemkins completing our top 20. And as we look down into the AM class now, our third of our classes here, but by no means the least, we can see Matt Emmons there, currently the championship leader with an advantage extending to 23 points. And the big question for Emmons is, now that he's finally found his feet, will he be able to extend that lead, or will it be the case that the Silverstone circuit proves to be too difficult to continue to extend that lead? And we'll talk more about Emmons and his thoughts going into this race a little bit later. But last time at Road Atlanta, picking up a near perfect evening, albeit being denied the fastest lap in the sprint race by Stefan Tim Koopmans, and also denied the win in the feature race in the end by the same driver. It is the case that Koopmans, with his consistency, particularly in the feature races and starting to improve in the sprint races, has emerged as a potential contender for that championship lead early on. But then again, Jochen Siegert, Stefan Gamborg Rasmussen and George Bland will all have something to say about that, completing our top 5, and do not count out the likes of Arjen Kregel and Morten Oosterhuis, both there on 87 and 86 points, and definitely in the pursuit of George Bland. A little bit further down in terms of points, a further 9 points off Oosterhuis is Kurt van Hoenacker in P8, with Navarro de Bova, after a strong start to the season, having a non-finish last time out in the feature race at Road Atlanta, seeing him drop some critical points, and de Bova's campaign will need to be revived as of tonight. Alexander Patak completing our top 10, and outside of our top 10 in the AM class, we can see Matthew Addy with a very consistent performance at Road Atlanta, 13 points in both of the races, taking up to 64 points. And we'll have to keep our eyes on Addy tonight to see whether he's able to get himself into the top 10 and make a breakthrough performance, with Gus Franken there not able to attend at Road Atlanta, seeing him not pick up any points to add to his tally after a good opening quarter for Gus Franken. Arjen Bakker, Ronald van Utrecht, Peter Kupiers and Jurgen Nockert, and Peter Dombrecht completing our order there, with Peter Dombrecht having a limited amount of time out on circuit so far, and we look forward to seeing the return of our P17 man. Now, the images in the background of all these standings, we should point out, and also you see in the thumbnails for these broadcasts, brought to you by RC Sim Photography. That's Rhys Caryl Sim Photography. Definitely worth checking out if you're looking for real-life photos effectively taken of sim racing, and he's a brilliant photographer for iRacing. So Rhys Caryl Sim Photography, definitely one to check out if you do love a good photograph. Looking to the team standings, meanwhile, we can see it's the case at Luxim24 with M&V Esports across both Lobby 1 and Lobby 2, leading currently on 242 points with an advantage of 18 points over RD Simsport. Not to count out RD Simsport, however, but they have got 14 points ahead of Ignium Spark, and will be looking to extend that lead and bring down the championship leaders over the course of the racing at Silverstone. Will it be the case that we see Team RTA start to tighten their run towards the top 3 and perhaps break in and even go for a top 2 position come the end of tonight? Apex with MV Sports and Switchback Motorsport, they're both on 189 points, P5 and P6. Switchback Motorsport being down there on result countback. The CXR Project Black, meanwhile, contesting that opportunity to be the main contender to break into the top 5 as well on 186 points, with Next Gen Orange, Altitude Esports and Delta Motorsport completing our top 10 in the team championship. Outside of the top 10, we can see McChallenge BE2 there in P11 on 164 points, and then we have a close cluster of teams from Next Gen Blue all the way down to Ignium Motorsport there, running from P12 to P16. TRN Blue, that's Team Racing Netherlands Blue there on 138 points, 7 points clear of McChallenge BE1 and TRN Red, and Ignium Blaze completing our top 20. Outside the top 20, our last 4 teams, SVPMR there on 106 points, ahead of Ignium Motorsport Phoenix. The Phoenix trying to rise from the ashes at Silverstone, and DDR there consisting of one driver, that's Rhys Caryl, of course, on 83 points, and the sole driver bringing the team ahead of Team Racing Netherlands Orange going into this round. Team Racing Netherlands Orange being last in our championship standings for the teams at the moment on 82 points in P24. But coming away from our standings and our drivers, let's talk a little bit about the circuit. Tonight, we are at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, based in Silverstone, Northamptonshire, England. And as shown to you by this race map, this track diagram, I should say, by simracingwiki.com, to whom we're forever grateful for these brilliant circuit maps, you can see the circuit consisting of 18 corners, based on an old World War II military airfield used by the Royal Air Force of the United Kingdom. And this circuit, known for its top speed in terms of planes taking off at high speeds, is the case that our drivers will be going up to very high speeds tonight over the course of the 18-corner circuit. Renowned for being a high downforce circuit, this track is all about having that confidence to carry speed into corner apex and knowing when to get on the throttle and particularly return to full throttle. With a charge into turn 1 at Abbey Corner, extending all the way into the heavy braking zone of Village at turn 3 and even heavier braking zone of the Loop at turn 4. You've got the run down the Wellington Straight, which connects turns 5 and 6, and then we have the old start-finish straight extending from what is Luffield Corner at turn 7 all the way up to Cops Corner at turn number 9. And then the high-speed section that follows from turn 9 all the way through to turn 14, Chapel Corner, which takes our drives onto the hanger straight, and Stowe Corner at turn 15, a very tricky corner with that long extended apex leading to the final 3 corners to complete the lap. But enough words, let's put in a reference lap here as brought to you by Matt Emmons in the Mercedes-AMG Evo GT3, and let's give you a demonstration of the 18 corner circuit. So making his way over the apex curve there and charging down towards what is turn number 1, it is the case that Matt Emmons making his way into turn number 1 here, braking up briefly at the 50 metre board there just before it, and then quickly getting back on the throttle before charging into the left-hander of turn 2. Now heavy braking into Village Corner at turn 3 here, coming all the way down the gearbox to second gear and then getting back on the throttle, building up the speed before braking again into turn number 4. Making his way through the apex and immediately stamping on the throttle as soon as he can see clear and see he's got the width of the circuit. Now flat out through Aintree Corner at turn 5 and on to the Wellington straight here. Just going up through the gears into 5th gear. We'll be seeing reach 6th gear. I don't think he's got enough straight here to get into 6th gear in the Mercedes, but now coming into turn number 6, heavy braking but trail braking in here and looking for the latest possible apex and cutting the apex curve there, which will cause him to go to a tighter line into turn number 7. That left into right sequence as he goes deep at 7, but he uses that deep line to cut back and get on the throttle early to go for a powerful exit. Now making his way out to 7 through the right-hander of 8 onto the old start-finish straight here, completely flat out, before heading up towards Cops Corner at 9. A tricky corner this one, you've got to have the belief and the confidence. He'll brake at roughly 75 metres, a dab of the brake, turn the car in and get back on the throttle as soon as you clear the apex. And as he makes his way through now, full beans all the way down to the sequence course. It turns 10 through to 14. He comes charging into left into right combination here. And you'll see just going on the brakes briefly and lifting off the throttle before coming down from 5th gear to 4th gear as he comes into turn number 13, down into 3rd gear, frying the car into the corner and immediately getting on the throttle as soon as he clears the apex, needing to maintain and carry the speed now down the hanger straight in the long charge up towards turn number 16. So turn number 15 I should say, as he makes his way into the long right-hander. Heading up to 6th gear here, the longest straight and the fastest straight as he comes into the trail braking zone here, coming down to 4th gear, nice and tight on that apex curve, and as he emerges from the corner, now making his way down towards turn 16. 3 corners to go, another heavy braking zone, braking at the 100 metre board and coming all the way down to 2nd gear, balancing the throttle here to keep the car over to the left-hand side before swinging to the right there for turn 17, and now flat out through turn number 18, mindful of the sausage curve on the apex, and completing the lap, a nice smooth lap there in the Mercedes AMG from Matt Emmons. Now, as for our race rules tonight, our drivers shall be using the fixed iRacing medium downforce setup for tonight's races, and in both the sprint and the feature race, as always, our drivers will have 1 fast repair available. They'll also be subject to potential drive-through penalties if they accumulate a certain number of instant points. It's times 17 for the sprint race, and it's times 25 for the feature race. The only difference between the 2 races, the main difference, is that our drivers' starting fuel loads will be restricted to 70% for the start of the feature race, and this is to ensure that our drivers have to take that mandatory pit stop where they have to take on the fuel to go to the end of the race, but changing tyres is entirely optional. And of course, it can provide our drivers with better rubber to go racing towards the end, but in return they have to spend longer in the pits. But coming up from our rules then, ladies and gentlemen, we now head back to our live cameras in the build-up to going racing, and I believe qualifying is just about to get underway. Perfect timing, and we can see it is the case that we are going qualifying now as all of our drivers begin to make their way out of the pits, and it is time to see over the 15 minutes who is going to be on pole by the end of the believe. We've already got a driver parking off circuit. That's Stephen Norman parking off circuit and then returning, but right now everybody trying to get out there as quickly as possible in order to get themselves set and get as much track time as humanly possible. Now the question here in qualifying, of course, is where do you want to place yourself on the circuit in terms of, do you want to give yourself space? Do you want to give yourself the opportunity to catch a slipstream? I think you need a combination here. It's not a case that you want to avoid picking up the toe necessarily, because the slipstream can be very strong, particularly down both of the straights, none more so than down the hanger straight. So coming out to turn 14 at Chapel Corner in the run down towards turn at number 15, but it is the case of catching the slipstream at the right time that's ever so critical, and Jason Landry here, who we're looking at making his way through turn number 8, will be getting the distant toe off of one of his colleagues further up the road ahead of him as he makes his way on through the corners here and charges on through into turn number 9. As he comes on through, we take a look into the chat with you guys and girls there, and we can see Callum Reid Garton in the YouTube chat saying good evening. We can see also Arjen Kregel in the YouTube chat. It's good to see you. And Rafael Santa Barbara there in the YouTube chat, and good evening to you, Rafael. as we just look in with our stewards chats as well. And do remember that the racing that you're seeing here did take place on Wednesday, so as a result some of the people are viewing will be people who took part in the racing. If you're wondering why are they in the chat right now, shouldn't they be racing, it's because they're watching back and looking for some good old-fashioned entertainment. At least I presume so, not to toot my own horn. But right now, as we continue to look around the circuit, and we see all of our drivers are just getting themselves set up as best as they can. Indeed, quite the cluster of drivers are a little bit further back there, as we see Gus Franken just going a bit wide out of turn number 9. It is the case, everybody getting ready to go for their opening qualifying lap as they're making their way around right now. We still have got best part of 13 minutes, and we're expecting our drivers to put in somewhere in the region of 5 to 6 qualifying laps here at most in order to try and get it all said and done. As we see Jason Landry going onto a lap, and we ride on board with Landry as he takes us around for one of his first flying laps. It's going through turn 2 and into the braking zone for turn number 3 here. The Ferrari driver getting nice and collecting a very nice tight apex there at Village Corner before coming out and heading up into turn number 4 here. Looking very smooth right now as he applies ample steering lock to that Ferrari 488. We've got a car going slow ahead of him. And as he makes his way through Aintree Corner and onto what is the Wellington Straight right now, picking up that distant toe off the Audi R8 by looks of things as he comes roaring in towards turn number 6. Now, will he be compromised here? With that Audi going very slow but moving out of the way in the end, and I think that's Luke McKeown moving out of the way. As we can see, it's the case that right now, well, Landry just going on a mission to try and get the best possible lap as he takes a V-shaped run there through turn number 7. You can do that, but he goes a little bit sideways on exit there. The body roll, the rear of the car just catching him out as he makes his way flat out through turn number 8 and heads up towards turn number 9. Gets him ready to go into the very tricky right-hander here as he dabs the brakes, trowels it in, and then as soon as he touches the apex, you can just see as soon as he taps it, he gets back on the throttle. But has to hesitate a little bit because the car was being carried wide, and now it's the run down through turns 10 through to 14 here, left into right, and as he makes his way through here, coming down to 4th gear, and then coming down to 3rd as he turns into 12, before now balancing the car on the brakes briefly, before turning through and getting back on the throttle, and as he exits from 13 through 14, flat out now in the long charge down. He hasn't got anybody to get a toe off of here, but this is looking a good lap from Landry so far as he makes his way down the hanger straight up towards turn number 15. Going up towards 6th gear, he's not quite in 6th as he comes down from 5th here into 3rd gear, trail braking in and going for a very sweet apex as he gets back on the throttle early and emerges out of the corner. Whilst it was looking a little bit rough early on, 3 more corners to go, and this lap is looking impressive from the pro driver as he comes through turn number 16, clips the curb, then it helps rotate the car just enough, a little bit of shake on the wheel, and as he makes his way through turn number 18 right now, we see Billy Fletcher setting the provisional pole lap. What can everybody else do? Jason Landry there with a 2:01. Billy Fletcher with a 1:59.3. But to be fair, Landry's lap sweet, albeit a little bit jagged at certain points. But Landry putting in a good lap. But now we're seeing more and more times coming in as we see Elliott Harper there hugging the back of what looks to be Lucas Romano. And indeed, in doing so, getting that distant toe. Well, really, the toe right up there as we can see it. Meanwhile, Heron's making his way around as well. Heading through turn 2 and into 3 is the Lamborghini Huracan driver as more lap times are coming in. Everybody's setting those lap times now, and we have got a field of approximately 44 drivers out on circuit, so we are missing some big names out on circuit. So if you are wondering where certain drivers are, not everybody was able to make it tonight, and that means there's a great opportunity for some drivers to get some huge points on the board and continue their championship campaigns on a higher level as more times are coming in. And Matt Caruana there setting the time in the Lamborghini Huracan, P2 right now, 1.5 tenths off of Fletcher. And from what we were seeing last night in Lobby 2 in the Coach Dave Academy Next Level Racing Lobby, the BMW seemed to be the go-to car for the purposes not just one lap pace but overall race pace. Then again, the mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars such as the Audi, the Lamborghini Huracan and also the Porsche all having their ability to go on the offensive, albeit they seem to be stronger cars in the race compared to in qualifying. But right now, Fletcher, Caruana and Harper and also Dadswell all showing that the mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars can put in absolutely brilliant qualifying laps, at least in the Pro class here. As meanwhile, your current provisional pole sitter in the Pro-Am class is Jean-Louis Deschamps here on what is, in terms of lap time, a 1:59.9. So after the opening round of qualifying laps set by our drivers, let's just give you a display here which will show you all of our drivers grouped together in terms of class. It is the case that right now our fastest driver in the Pro is Billy Fletcher on a 59.3, as we just try to get you that visibility in terms of the class as well. Yep, it's Billy Fletcher on a 1:59.3, Jean-Louis Deschamps on a 59.9, so 6 tenths off of the Pro drivers, and then it is Matt Emmons with the fastest lap so far in what is the AM class on a 2:09.53. Indeed, Matt Emmons there, when I had the chance to catch up with him in preparation for him getting into the car, the one thing he was saying to me is he wasn't expecting the BMW to go well here, and the reason for that, simply put, was that he was expecting that the BMW does not like Silverstone in terms of that feel, and he's also got a lead to maintain the championship, and he was a little bit, I think, nervous going into tonight, not being in that position over the course of the season really so far, but now with that lead, he wants to continue to open that lead up rather than let it come on in. We'll have to wait and see as he makes his way around right now as our drivers continue to go on around, and we're going to keep the sidebar up there on the left hand side, and thank you for the feedback there, KTMs, from the Facebook chat, and we're going to keep that up there over the course of qualifying for a bit of time just to give you an idea of how some of the lap times are coming in, and we will then also show you the split in the field a little bit later on. But meanwhile, I say that was Jean-Louis Deschamps with a phenomenal lap, and now Callum Reid Garton coming in with a sensational lap of his own as well, responding, if you will, Callum Reid Garton at 59.6. He is half a second off of the pros pole position time, but we can see Callum Reid Garton 2/10 faster than Jean-Louis Deschamps, and putting in a lot of work is the prime driver as he makes his way on through what is turn number 4 there, and Matt Caruana has gone on to take provisional pole in the pro class there by 1.5 tenths over Billy Fletcher, so those margins are coming down as we've got a car with a lot of smoke kicking up, and I believe that was Alexander Batak having a moment there going down into turn number 3, and Caruana, well, he's definitely come out the gate strong as we see Batak return to the circuit behind. That's a switchback Motorsport Audi R8, and we can see there the Ignium Motorsport R8 moving out of the way of Caruana as Caruana gets ready to go on to another lap. He won't be using this lap, I'm sure, but he'll be getting those tyre temps back up and getting ready to go charging on the next one with half the qualifying session remaining right now, as we say hello to Håkon Grebstad as well in the YouTube chat there. I believe your winner 1408 being Håkon Grebstad, and we hope you guys are all doing well. You guys and girls that tune in are all having a good week so far, and if you are tuning in right now and you're a little bit nervous about saying hello, don't be shy, feel free to say hi. We don't bite here, well, I definitely don't, but it may be the case that some of the guys in the chat bite a little bit more, but we're all a friendly bunch in actuality at Next Gen, indeed in the chat. We're just here for some fantastic racing, as meanwhile we come back to looking at our screens, and it is the case that Navarro de Bova right now, after a strong opening 3 qualifying sessions, not quite on the pace this time out in the Silverstone qualifying session here in round number 4. Right now P5, I do wonder whether Navarro just needs a little bit of time as he goes wide out of turn 4. We did see a number of drivers going wide out of turn 4, particularly in the race in Lobby 2 last night, not in the qualifying session, but I think Navarro de Bova just exploring the limits of traction there and where he feels he can get the best possible line coming out of turn number 4. So I wouldn't be surprised that if that was just a sighting attempt to see how far he can push that Audi R8 and experience understeer along the way as he gets it wrong there at turn 7, and the rear brakes lock up and bring the car around, and Navarro de Bova, well, I say, is pushing the limits. I think he's pushed the limits a little bit too far there as he reverses off the circuit and gets the car fully turned around, and he hasn't got any real traffic coming his way, as meanwhile we look from him to a little bit further down the order in terms of around on the circuit right now. Daniel Blomqvist, the bright esports driver here, making his way through turn number 5 through Aintree Corner right now. Said Andrew Corner there. I was going to say, is that a name or a corner? As he makes his way down the Wellington Straight here, named after the British medium bomber, of course, the Wellington Bomber. And as he makes his way down into turn number 6 right now, can he drop a major lap, or will it be the case that he's going to have to keep it in the bay and just wait for another opportunity perhaps later in this qualifying session? Well, right now, currently P8 within his class and not looking strong, but I'll tell you one person who is looking very strong, and we haven't seen too much in this qualifying session right now, Øystein Herford there with an absolutely phenomenal lap, and if that is going to be a sign of things to come from our drivers and from Øystein Herford in particular, 58.6, well, the Ignium Motorsport driver right now has set a huge target there for Caruana, Fletcher and Edmonds to contest. And to be fair to Caruana, Fletcher and Edmonds, they're all separated by only 2 tenths of a second, and then Hereford's just come out of nowhere and put half a second between himself and the rest of the qualifying pack in the pro class, and that is phenomenal as he makes his way down towards turn 9. 58.6. I wonder if that is going to be matched here as he makes his way through turn number 9. As he comes on through at this point, we take a look a little bit further around the circuit and to some of our slightly lower times here, and it is the case that Arjen Kregel right now making his way around in P7 in the AM class here, and that is equating to P34 overall. In terms of where his time sits versus his peers, he's currently 1.5 tenths of Alexander Batak, and it's the case that Batak, Kregel, Van Hoenacker, who is a further what is half a second off of Kregel, they are all in the Audi R8 here, and it does seem as though the Audi R8, one of those cars which when you get it in that sweet spot, is just about right in terms of getting the lap time. It can be one of the fastest cars, but when it's outside of that sweet spot, it does seem to struggle somewhat, and that I think is what a number of drivers who pick the Audi are feeling over the course of this championship. Remember, our drivers are allowed a car swap midway through the season. Any car swaps outside of that point will see our drivers penalised. They will lose, I believe it's their best pair of results, so their best race evening they'll lose over the course of the championship. And of course, with only one dropped round in this championship, you do not want to lose any points where possible, because you can barely get away with dropping the one round. Wrong, the rear just unsettling coming out of 13, and the car going wayward. They tried to get back together by simply doing some counter steer and putting his foot down, but the rear end saying, "Oh, we've got a Ferrari there deciding to go rallycross," and that is Lucas Romano there, the Pro-Am driver, having a similar moment coming out to turn number 13, the Ferrari 488. And indeed, these cars very tricky to drive on the utmost limit, particularly when the engine's in the rear of the car, for the simple reason you have that weight transfer on the rear of the car, and you're more inclined to oversteer on corner exit rather than understeer, as he now makes his way back up to speed here, coming down the hanger straight towards turn at number 15. But meanwhile, as we look from the misfortunes of Romano there, who has a little bit of latency as well, we can see that Øystein Herford right now, what I said, could he be matched? Well, Daniel Blomqvist has almost done it here, as the Bright Esports driver is now following the CXR Project Black machine. I believe that is Ed Lack ahead of him. It may not be, of course, it may be Phil McDougall, the two drivers out on circuit, but it is the case that right now Daniel Blomqvist only 6 thousandths off a Herford, and this is very close in terms of that provisional pole time for the Pro class and overall right now, as our drivers make their way around on the circuit. Now we are just going to look a bit further down our order once again, and it is Dirk Bounce who is currently our leader in the Pro class. He's pulled a lap out of nowhere as well, 4 tenths faster, 4.5 tenths faster than Callum Reid Garton and the Belgian driver. Well, if Bounce wanted to make a statement, he has made one on a 59.2, as he's currently parking up on the circuit and trying to stay out of everybody's way. And whilst we're looking at the Ferrari, can his rival here in qualifying, Callum Reid Garton, find a way to come back at Bounce? I mean, with a delta of 4 tenths, I said it couldn't be done, and then we saw Blomqvist get very close to pipping Øystein Herford. Will it be the case that Garton is able to do what Blomqvist could not to Herford and take that provisional pole back off of Bounce? As meanwhile, in the AM class, I can tell you that right now, Matthew Addy and Matt Emmons going toe-to-toe, only 1 tenth separating. There's Matt Emmons and the BMW M4 coming down to turn 3 right now. Meanwhile, Matthew Addy making his way into turn number 16, and the Ferrari driver here looking very fierce in that Ferrari. Did at Road Atlanta, he really came alive at the American circuit. Can he pull off a wonder result here in qualifying today? Well, he's on course to definitely be as close as possible to pole. He's not going to take pole in class, he'll take that second place. But to be fair, Stefan Gamborg Rasmussen, the Dane, has jumped to the pits, so Gamborg Rasmussen will not be improving from P3 in the AM class, as we see Addy does improve there to a 2:08, almost a tenth faster than Matt Emmons. Now, will Emmons respond? That is the question here. As for Emmons, he will want every point he can get, and he's just making his way through turn number 7 right now. He's still got a good amount of lap to go, and I think this will be his final lap. He won't have enough time to complete this one and go on to another, so Emmons has got it all to do on this last lap. As meanwhile, as we continue to look around, is the case that I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, we are not going to be seeing Caruana or Fletcher take to the circuit again. So Caruana and Fletcher will be populating your second row on this circuit effectively, or indeed they will be on the second row of the pros, I should say. But let's take a quick look at how all the field now filters together in terms of their positioning overall, and we're just going to show you that very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, as we just try to see it here within the overall. And you can see there Dirk Bounce separating that second row as qualifying comes to its end right now, and let's see how the qualifying times come in. The last of our qualifying times, will we see any major upsets right at the end? As Matt Caruana parked in the pits, Billy Fletcher as well parked up in the pits, Dirk Bounce just parking up on the side of the circuit. He thinks he's got it done. Øystein Herford here holding on right now, but what about Daniel Blomqvist? Well, he's got the toe here in the run down the straight. This is the run down towards turn number 15. He comes all the way down. He's got the distant toe of the CXR Project Black Huracan in front of him, as Matt Emmons does not improve. So Matt Emmons does not take pole in the AM class from what I'm hearing, as he's crossed our timing line. Matthew Addy is still on course to take pole in the AM class, and Dirk Bounce still on course to take pole in the Pro-Am class. But can Blomqvist find a way to come back with the final lap around this circuit, as he goes a bit higher there on the exit curve at turn number 17? He comes around. I do not think it's enough. It's not enough, and it means that Daniel Blomqvist will not pip Herford to pole position, and in the end it is Øystein Herford who takes that pole within in the Pro class. Meanwhile, Dirt Bounce takes the pole in what is the Pro-Am class, or does he? Well, Callum Reid Garton has finished his qualifying sessions. That's pole position for Pro-Am. That's Dirt Bounce. And then it is Matthew Addy, who as he comes across the line, takes pole in the Am class. My goodness, and 3 drivers who we wouldn't have perhaps expected to be on pole, but they put in brilliant laps and they've got the job done. As we continue to look around here, and everybody now parking up, it would seem, as their qualifying session over. But I say that, and then Dadswell has just come out of nowhere. We're at 57.2, but I'm wondering whether that's a timing glitch, for the simple reason that there is reportedly a glitch with the qualifying timing sheets when our drivers come into the pits. I'm not 100% sure. We will wait for confirmation of that as we transition over to the race. But meanwhile, we've got more times coming in right now. I'd say if Dadswell's pulled off a 57.295, it would be incredible to hit the field by 1.3 seconds. But we were hearing about some timing errors with the timing equipment going down the pit lane, as we see Fairclough in the end qualifying P16 overall. That's P12 in class. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is qualifying complete. And we just had it confirmed to us, and thank you, Billy Fletcher, that pole position and also second place there, Dadswell and Hereford took those laps through the pit lane timing glitch. So as a result, it is Daniel Blomqvist who has taken pole position in the Pro class. So thank you for clarifying. So Blomqvist in the end taking that time by 5/10 a second. And well, we are having more items coming in here, and this is what we're seeing on our time screens. But of course, it may be the case that that's just a glitch on our screens. I think Dirt Bounce, we're also being told that Dirt Bounce not on pole in the end due to a timing a timing issue. So as a result, that would mean that Callum Reid Garton has taken pole in the Pro-Am class, and then I would presume that Matthew Addy's lap still stands unless I'm informed otherwise. It's a bit difficult to tell, of course, because it is a glitch with the timing system, but we are just waiting for qualifying to end, only moments away now, and now we get ready to go racing. And well, we will see how our grid forms up very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, and we might have to do it verbatim, just seeing how all of our drivers form up right now, with of course those issues with our timing screens. Then I believe it is Matt Caruana who took pole position. Okay, so we have got quite a bit of a change up here with regards to who took pole and who did not take pole within the classes, ladies and gentlemen. So you have to forgive us here. We will work around this as time goes on. We are just waiting to see all of our drivers load in to the grid. But it does look as though that's Elliott Harper lining up on what appears to be, I would say, the third row there, as that is Caruana. And it looks though Matt Caruana has, well, in the end, Matt Caruana took pole within the Pro class, as we are just waiting for that grid to be fully formed. As that grid is being fully formed right now, will Dirt Bounce be up there on that front row? We will have to wait and see. I don't think he's going to be up there though. We are going to get a flip of our timing sheets, and we'll just check whether that's come through on our grid. Indeed, we do. I believe we do have some glitch time, so we will try and give you that down run of the grid order as we're about to get underway with the rolling start. It should update at that point, but a little bit of confusion there because of what is the issues with our timing equipment going into the pit lane. But Caruana in the end on pole within the Pro class, and I believe it was Callum Reid Garton, or was it Jean-Louis Deschamps? I think it was Jean-Louis Deschamps, in fact, who took pole within the Pro-Am class, unless Dirt Bounce does load into the grid here. We have got a gap on the right hand side, and then it was Matthew Addy who took pole in the Am class here. I'm really sorry for that confusion, as we are just waiting now to go racing. And we can see there from LMR Ignium Motorsport in the YouTube chat saying, think Dirk will be starting from the pits, and I believe that is the case. In fact, we're not seeing him line up on the grid. So as a result, it is Caruana and Fletcher on the, it's Caruana and Edmonds, I should say, on the front row, with Fletcher and Dadswell behind, Harper and Grebstad on row number 3, Herons and Blomqvist on row number 4, Hereford and Deschamps. Deschamps taking that pole position in the end in the Pro-Am class, and then we pit Matthew Hodges, Edward Latt and Callum Reid Garton, and further down it's Matthew Addy with Stefan Gamberg, Rasmussen and Matt Emmons just behind him. But we get ready to go racing at Silverstone for the sprint race. 15 minutes. Who's going to be the winner? Let's find out as Caruana takes us to the green. And it's lights out and away we go as Caruana takes the field away across the timeline. You can see immediately there we've got the Ignium Motorsport Audi trying to go for the move. Elliott Hereford as they all cluster together here into turn number 1. Here's the case. It is quite cramped as we've got there. I think that's Hereford with a major moment as we've got 2 BMWs tripping over. That's Fletcher, Harriman's, and also another car going wide as a number of cars have to clear the circuit immediately. But meanwhile in the midfield we see the bright eSport BMW returning to the circuit in the wrong direction. All of our drivers coming on through here and it's absolute chaos through turn number 2, but it finally starts to settle down here into turn number 4 as all of our drivers now make their way on through. We can see Harriman's there taking to the runoff road as meanwhile a bit further down it is the case that Håkon Grebstad here trying to find his way on through, but meanwhile with everything that's happened further behind it all good. It's being Harriman's going for another spin there coming across the circuit, but further up the road we can see that Caruana holding on to that lead after the first sequence of corners, and meanwhile Daniel Blomqvist down in P7 here holding off Tom Mayo, and Mayo losing out the most at the start of this race with damage on the car by looks of things from out on that front left hand side, as meanwhile a bit further down the order we can see there is the case that Callum Reid Garton up into the lead of the Pro-Am class coming out of the first few corners as he makes his way into turn number 9. But meanwhile as our drivers come on through the sequence of corners right now it is the case a bit further down Matt Evans has got back into the lead of what is the AM class here as he comes through turn number 9. He's now trying to break away from Stefan Gamborg-Rasmussen who's pursuing him feverishly as they make their way up towards turn number 10. And no way through right now, but meanwhile a little bit further back there we can see Navarro de Bova hanging on to the back of the Altitude Esports BMW of Mark Fletcher, the pro driver there under pressure as Håkon shot there trying to find his way past. And was that Deegan Fairclough getting into the contact? I think there was contact between the 2 BMW drivers as Fairclough comes rolling back across the circuit and just about stops the car. As meanwhile we look a bit further up front and we see it's Billy Fletcher pursuing Matt Caruana down into turn number 16. So as they make their way to the end of lap number 1 it is Matt Caruana leading as he comes around to complete that first lap. So as he comes across our timeline then, Matt Caruana leading by 7/10 of a second ahead of Billy Fletcher, followed by Tom Edmonds in P3, then it's Elliott Harper P4, Dadswell in P5, followed by Håkon Grebstad in P6, then Daniel Blomqvist P7, Tom Mayo P8, that's our pro drivers, followed by Callum Reid Garton in P9, our leader of the Pro-Am class, then we've got Paul King in P10, second place in Pro-Am, followed by Robert de Sunik in P11, then we've got Jean-Louis Duchance in P12, followed by Ed Lack in P13, as we are hearing that Fletcher's had a major moment. What's happened to Fletcher? Well, he's recovered here. I think there's been an off of some description because Fletcher's dropped multiple places just as we were recalling the order, but right now Fletcher dropping from P2 all the way down to P7. He's got work to do now to find his way back on through as he makes his way on the charge after Daniel Blomqvist, but Blomqvist right now not worrying about going defensive as they make their way into turn number 6. Meanwhile in terms of the leader of the AM class it is still Matt Evans who is in P18. He's got 2 places ahead of Stefan Gamborg-Rasmussen as Rasmussen a bit further back as we see here Mark Fletcher going for the move on Lucas Romano, a change of position there but not within class, and we can see here Gamborg-Rasmussen being pursued by Håkon Grebstad and also Navarro de Bova. We've got the 3 AM drivers here all coming together in the run out of turn and number 7 and all trying to find their position out on the circuit right now to go for an opportunity and take another position on the circuit as they make their way on around through turn number 8 and up towards turn number 9. Now will we see any difference between them? Not at this point in time. All just staying together right now as they make their way on through, but Matthew Addy meanwhile dropping all the way down to P28. That's P8 in class after a strong qualifying session, and Addy would damage the car. I think he was involved in one of those collisions coming through turn 1 or turn 2, and Addy right now looking for the move on Franken, but he can't quite find it and has to stay in position right now as he makes his way through the corners here. He's all over the back of Franken, but this is not what Addy will have wanted, and he'll be thinking right now about damage limitation. Can he get some good points from just simply keeping his head down and getting on with the job? Well, he's got the overspeed here on the exit of Chapel, and as he makes his way out towards turn number 15 he's going to try and go around the outside here. Franken's going to defend on the inside, and Franken squeezing the door as much as he can shut as Caruana comes across our timeline, and we see our time screens lighted up with the first sets of proper laps for our drivers. But meanwhile Addy has to wait for another opportunity as we do see a little bit further in front Navarro de Bova and Kurt van Hoenacker coming towards one of them, but challenge drivers here, but no change between them. As meanwhile we look a little bit further up the road, and I can tell you that Ed Lack has just gone round the outside to inside into turn 2 versus Jean-Louis Duchance here, and it is the case that Lack gained the position as they make their way through turn number 3 and up into 4, and as they come on through at this point I think Jean-Louis Duchance just tucking in behind for the time being. We saw that the Porsche very strong through the corners, particularly the high speed sweepers, but not as strong when it was on the straights. And meanwhile we look from him to Daniel Blomqvist here, who's got Billy Fletcher over the back, and Fletcher going for the move on the inside here. He's up into turn number 6. He's got the move done, but you can see how all the drivers behind now stacking up on this battle as Tom Mayo there goes a bit wide through turn number 7. Callum Reid Garton I think of 2 minds. Does he put pressure on, or does he just simply wait? But he can't wait too long, of course, because he's got Paul King chasing after him here, and the Ignium Motorsport Spark team would love to take the crown of the win of the Pro-Am in the sprint race here and show Callum Reid Garton it's not a one-man show as they make the way into turn number 9. But will they be able to do it? He's got quite a gap to overcome right now, has Paul King, as he is 2 seconds back of our leader in the Pro-Am class. But meanwhile, we look from them down to Kurt van Hoenacker here in P25 right now, chasing after Navarro de Bova, and the challenge drivers staying as they are for the time being as they make their way on through turn number 9 and up towards 10. Further down the order, I can tell you that Matthew Addy here, he's in the battle once again with Gus Frank, and they're going to go side by side into turn number 10. And as they make their way into 10, it's a case that Addy backs out here, but Harron, he's stuck behind a fellow Ferrari. Oh, goodness me, and that's Kenny Harron is just spearing off like a bullet there coming out of turn number 11. That Lamborghini not wanting to go anywhere in the direction the driver wants it to go, and as a result he, I think, will be going into the pits very shortly with a damaged car, if not limping back to the pits. But meanwhile, as we can see here, the battle for the midfield in the AM class all coming together, but no change so far, and Daniel Holmer behind it. Meanwhile, further up the road, I can tell you that it is the case that Tom Mao continuing to try and find a way past Blomqvist, but he can't find it, and instead he's got this increasing pressure from Callum Reid Garton behind, and he will need to get a move on soon, because I'm sure that right now the Pro-Am driver is feeling that pressure from Paul King, just building a little bit on his back, and he will not want that pressure to build up too much as they make their way on through. We've still got 7.5 minutes, 8.5 minutes of this race to go, if I can do my maths correctly, and still plenty of racing action to come, I'm sure, as our drivers make their way on through here. Mel, the closest he's been for a while here versus Blomqvist. The Bright Esports driver doesn't go defensive. The RDC SimSport driver does go to the inside here, looks to move, and as he comes on through, I think he's going to get it done, or is he? He's going to try and squeeze Blomqvist, but Blomqvist keeps his nose in there and says, you can't shut the door on me, I've got my nose in. And as they make their way out of turn number 7 here, they're still side by side. It's the long run down towards turn number 9 right now, and Mail is ahead, albeit just by a small margin as they make their way on through. Now into the right hander at turn number 9, you can see Callum Reid Garton flash his lights, I think, to try and say, look, I'm not fighting this one. Mail's going to continue to go around the outside. Can he get it done? He runs a bit wide there. Now I'm wondering whether he will get a warning for track limits as he makes his way down to turn number 10. I think it may just be a warning this time as he makes his way on through the sequence of corners right now, but Mal definitely continuing to press on and just trying to gain more place as he comes charging on through turn number 13 and into 14. He's got the move done for now, but will we see Blomqvist make the turn? You see Mal immediately pulling over to what for us is the right hand side, the left hand side of the track for him. He wants to try and cut a little bit of the toe from Blomqvist as they make their way up into the braking zone for turn 16. No comeback attempt from the BMW driver. They'll have to wait until another lap, as meanwhile we are hearing that Matthew Addy has had a major run, and Addy all the way down to P33 overall now. It's P9, and Addy was chasing after Gus Franken has dropped well out of the hunt for a potential top 5 here, and it's going from good to bad to disastrous for Matthew Addy. As meanwhile a bit further up the road, I can tell you that Jeremy DeBova, well, right now running P14, that's P5 in class, in the Pro-Am class. He has got Stephen Norman over the back of him, and he's chasing after Jean-Louis Deschamps here as the Audi driver tries to find his way to get closer to the Porsche driver whilst holding off the Ferrari of Stephen Norman behind as they make their way through turn number 1 once again here. And as they come through, half of the race complete now. It's anyone's guess how it's going to play out between these three as they make their way down into the braking zone for turn number 3. But I think Jeremy DeBova at this point will be thinking about getting those good points. If he can just take the P5, I think he'll settle for it right now after what has been a rather seesaw season so far. He's now just looking to get those strong points on the board, as I'm hearing that Navarro DeBova, the younger member of the DeBova clan, has had a spin at turn 2. He reverses off the circuit immediately though to move out of the way. Now meanwhile as he tries to get the car back on the road, the father of the DeBova clan here goes a little bit deep into turn number 6, but he gets it back together to go for a nice line into turn 7. But you can see really having to push hard as he chases after Jean-Louis Deschamps, but Deschamps unfazed at this point in time and just doing his best to hold on as they make their way on towards turn number 9. Now as they make their way on through, in the meantime, it is the case with this being one of the closest battles on circuit. We're hearing that Callum Reid Garton has actually just got past Daniel Blomqvist. In fact, he just made the pass into turn number 9 here. And Callum Reid Garton, well, I think he is trying to make a statement, is the Pro-Am driver. And that statement is, I may be Pro-Am, but I can take it with you Pro guys, as he makes his way on through the corners. But meanwhile, as he tries to gain some more places here, we can see a bit further back there, Edward Latt, the Pro-Am driver here, putting some pressure on Robert de Sunik. It's the Pro-Am chasing the Pro. And it does seem as though our Pro-Ams are feeling very feisty today to take the fight to their Pro opponents. But meanwhile, we can see further up the road, we've got a battle starting to build between between Harper and Edmonds here, and Harper flashing his lights on what is Edmonds, and these two, as they were, and as they make their way through turn number 17, we ride on board here with the third place Lamborghini of what is Elliott Harper as he makes his way onto another lap here, chasing after Edmonds. And let's just try and see where he's gaining versus Edmonds and where he's perhaps losing out as they make their way into turn number 1. Well, very smooth from both of them as they come through the right into left combination here, but I can see that Edmonds just holding a little bit more speed by comparison here as they come into Village Corner at turn number 3 and exiting going to 4 right now. I think it's the case that as they make their way through this opening sequence of corners, that Harper not as comfortable running in the toe of another car in those corners compared to Edmonds, who's got the distant toe of the Caruana but not feeling as much dirty air by comparison. And that dirty air, of course, stealing away some of the front end downforce in these machines as they make their way through, and that downforce critical here at Silverstone as they make their way through turn number 6. But see the difference in lines here. Harper able to take that late apex much more tightly compared to Harper, but as they make their way out of turn number 7, you can see by contrast it's the case that Harper taking a much tighter line on the apex there of turn 7. He's losing out little by little, but I think now we might see that transition as he makes his way in the long run down towards turn number 9. Will we see Harper suddenly start to come in a bit stronger compared to Edmonds? And meanwhile we look from our battle for P2 to our leader, who is being reeled in very gradually by Edmonds here. And in terms of lap times right now, Edmonds and Harper a bit slower than Caruana, but Caruana on this lap seemingly a little bit off the pace as they make their way on through. But whilst they're making their way on through, we can see a bit further down in the Prime class, it's the case that the two teammates, albeit they're racing for Ignium Motorsport, but different constituent teams for Ignium Motorsport here. We've got the Ignium Motorsport Spark driver of what is Jakob Boschoff chasing after what is Lovesley ahead of him, and as the Lamborghini Huracan driver tries to find a way to get past what is effectively his teammate, albeit not in the same sub-team, if you will, for the purposes of the team championship. The question is, do they stay as they are, or do they potentially fight with the fact they've got the space to do so? I think at this point you just want to get the points on the board and get yourself set for the feature race as they make their way through. But be fair, both races worth the same amount of points. It's not as though one's worth more than the other, as we just see Lovesley there getting a small bit of oversteer on the exit of turn number 15, not unsettling the car too much, but I think Boschoff may be aware of that and may be looking to exploit it a little bit later on. We haven't got long left, to be fair, 2 more laps approximately, as Peter Lemkins, we are hearing, has jumped to the pit after an incident a bit earlier on in the race. But right now Jakob Boschoff putting that pressure on his colleagues as they make their way down towards turn 1 once again for what is the penultimate time as they come on through the right-hander here. But meanwhile, a bit further down the road, I can tell you that there is a growing battle between what is Oosterhuis and also, well, there was a growing battle between Oosterhuis and Daniel Homer, but Homer was not Homer, between Oosterhuis and Van Hoenacker, but Daniel Homer has managed to get himself between them. And you see Oystein Hereford, after that brilliant qualifying, has found himself falling down the order here, all the way down to P28. And Hereford was one of the drivers who was involved in that major incident at the start of the race. But meanwhile, as our drivers continue around on circuit right now, Oosterhuis trying to chase after Van Hoenacker, who's just up the road from him, but now he's got to wait for Van Hoenacker to fall to what is Homer, who is chasing him. If he does, as Matthew Addy, we are hearing, has had another major moment, and this time Addy off at turn, that looks to be turn number 3 going into 4 here, the SVPMR driver. I think that might be a car that's going to be going into the pit or just recovering to come at the back of the field here. He'll want to get that car home, of course, that way he's placed on the grid for the reverse grid feature race. But this has not been a good day for Matthew Addy, as meanwhile we look a bit further up the order, and meanwhile whilst this is all going on, we can see that Jean-Louis Deschamps being reeled in, is the Belgian, by Jeremy De Boven behind here as they make their way on through. The two Belgians, of course, are racing to the best of their capabilities as they make their way on through Chapel Corner and down the Hangar Straight they go. But where can Jeremy De Boven close up? He's not closing up well enough here. But speaking of drivers who are closing up, we can see Billy Fletcher building on Grebstad. Grebstad in the McLaren MP4 12.6, like a unicorn, that car, how rare it's featured. But as they make their way on through the right-hander at turn number 17, we can see Grebstad, they're going a little bit wide and almost up onto the sausage curve, but just about avoiding it. But Billy Fletcher all over the back of Grebstad here and trying to get back into that top 5. He's going to look for the move into turn 1, but he's not close enough there, just faking the move at the last moment and considering it, but not able to go for it completely here. But Fletcher just trying to intimidate the driver ahead of him as he tries to go around the outside, but he's not quite able to find it as they make their way on through. And as they come into left-hander at turn number 4 here, will Fletcher be able to make the move in the run down towards turn number 6? We'll play Chevette, ladies and gentlemen. He is putting as much pressure as he can on Grebstad as we ride on board what is the gearbox here of the Norwegian as they come charging down. But you can see on that exit out of Aintree Corner at turn 5 into 6, just how the McLaren able to carry the speed. And as they make their way through 6 and into 7, Fletcher not close enough here. He's intimidating as much as he possibly can, but it is the case that Grebstad knows he can take his lines as he pleases as he exits out of the corner and now makes his way in the run down towards turn number 9. They come charging on down. In the meantime, both of them cutting as much as turn 8 as they dare before the track limits police decide to have a word with them. But as they make their way into turn number 9 right now, here's the case of Grebstad going a little bit wider of apex compared to Fletcher, but carrying the speed still as they make their way up towards turns 10 through to 14. And as we look to the exterior cameras here, they come flying on through. No change at this point in time, but we are on that final lap right now, and everything is now building up towards the checkered flag. Can Fletcher get close up? I don't think he's going to be able to do it. He's too far back right now as they make their way down towards what is turn number 15 while the major overtaking places. But you can see the delta between the two of them is just so significant, and I think Fletcher's going to have to wait for another opportunity to go on the offensive in the feature race. But meanwhile, speaking of a driver who went on the offensive early, he got it done in qualifying and he's carried it on through to the race here as he makes his way through the final two corners. It's going to be Apex Tech Racing's Matt Caruana who takes the win in the sprint race at Silverstone in the Pro Class ahead of Tom Edmonds and Elliott Harper. The podium for the Pro Class, then Dadswell in P4, great drive from Dadswell, Håkon Grebstad P5, Fletcher P6, Tom Mal P7, and then Callum Reid Garton will take the win in the sprint race for the Pro-Am drivers there, ahead of what is Paul King down in P10, but Daniel Blumenquist between the two of them. And as I say, Paul King in P10, Edward Lack completing the Pro-Am podium in P3 in class, that's P11 overall, Robert Asunik in P12, Jean-Louis Deschamps, Jeremy Debova, Stephen Norman and Andrew Lovesey there down in P16. Fletcher, Mark Fletcher P17, Jakob Boschoff P18, Lucas Mano P19 and Matt Edmonds, whilst we didn't get to see him, Matt Edmonds taking what was the win in the AM class ahead of Stefan Gamborg Rasmussen, and our AM class podium being completed by Jochen Siegert there as all of our drivers immediately coming into the pits or jumping to the pits to get ready to go racing for the feature race. And before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll of course be bringing you these post-race interviews with our race winners. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we're going to get our post-race interviews underway with our winners from the sprint race, and we're going to start from bottom up this time, beginning with our race winner in the AM class, and that was Matt Emmons. Hello, Matt, are you with us? I think we might be having some technical issues here.
Hi, Paul.
You right there, Matt? How's it going?
Not too bad, are you?
Oh, good, thank you. But more importantly, congratulations on your win in the sprint race at Silverstone. How's it feel to have taken the win in quite a high-pressure race, from what I gather?
I'll be honest, I didn't expect to win the class race tonight. With to me, I think the BMW really struggles the way I drive it around here. So to get the win's quite a shock, and I suppose the luck was in, I suppose.
Well, taking it a big step back, in qualifying, things seemed to go to plan for yourself in the end. Just managing to pip, I believe it was Matthew Addy to pole. Well, in fact, it was very close between the two of you. You had some glitched on time screens. Was it yourself on pole, or was it Addy on pole?
It was Matthew Addy, Stefan Gamborg Rasmussen, then me.
I see. Well, qualifying essentially P3 within class, did that change the complexity of the sprint race for yourself, or was it just one of those cases, okay, start in P3, just see if we can bring some good points home?
That was exactly it. I just thought if I can get third place, it's some good points. I'll keep my lead in the championship. But I must admit, everyone's competitive person in the world's got that voice in the back of their head thinking, well, second place isn't here racing tonight, so you can build a bigger gap, so you better just push for it, I think.
Oh, indeed, and push for it you did, but I think at the same time there's quite the instant going into the first three corners. How did you navigate through that? Because we saw Matthew Addy lose out massively at the start.
Pure luck, I'll be honest. I did have a bit of contact with Lucas Romano, which luckily enough didn't result in any damage. I just got lucky. I picked my gaps and nobody was there when I came through, so to speak.
I see, and then from that point onwards, after essentially picking up the pieces where other drivers had lost the places, was it a case then just get your head down? Because I think you were the leader come at the exit of the first three corners and just an attempt at breakaway?
Yeah, it was just keep my head down, just take the lap times I know I can and try and maintain the gap behind to Stefan and Jochen.
Well, that was an absolutely brilliant drive. Now, looking ahead to the feature race, of course, starting from the back compared to your peers, what was the plan going into the feature?
Well, I've had enough practice at starting at the back this season and trying to work my way through. So I thought if I can just do what I've been doing, it'll be all good.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on in the feature. But until then, thank you for joining us in the interviewing room and congratulations once again on your win in the sprint.
Thanks, Paul.
Here and there from Matt Emmons, our AM winner, and now we move on to our winner in the Pro class, Callum Reid Garton. But as we're trying to get Callum Reid in here, it is the case that Matt Emmons there playing it right, trying to look to gain the points, but as well picking up the pieces from the other drivers when there were those major incidents into the opening couple of corners. And sometimes you don't need to do any overtaking to make those overtakes, you just simply stay out of trouble. Now, as we pull Callum Reid Garton into the interview room, let's hear from our Prime winner. Hello, Callum. Can you hear me?
I can, mate.
Callum, another solid drive from yourself to take the win in the sprint race win class at Silverstone. How does it feel to have taken the win?
Yeah, great. It was a good race. Turn one was a bit messy. A couple of cars going off track. Managed to navigate through it, luckily. Which led me into the lead eventually. But yeah, overall, good race.
Now, I do have to ask, with qualifying, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Jean-Louis Deschamps who took pole position within the Pro-Am class?
Yes, I think it was. I think there was a glitch with the qualifying in regards to taking the pit lane. I did go in the pit lane, but I slowed down to at least... So my time went over 2 minutes too, so I wouldn't gain an advantage before I entered the pits. So, but yeah, he did really well. He had really good one lap pace, but I think the way the Porsche uses its tyres in racing conditions, it's not very good. The tyres they just die after so many laps. You get too much understeer, etc. Hence why you can't keep up the keep up the pace in the race, which is unfortunate because it would have been a good battle. But Paul did really well. I think he followed me through turn 1. To be honest with you, he got himself up into P2. But yeah, it was a fun race. I had a little mix up with some of the pros as well.
Well, coming on to that, we saw an interesting situation developing in the second half of the race where you were catching up to the back of a number of pro drivers, and with Paul King only 2 seconds back, we could see, I think you're getting a little bit impatient with the pros, almost as if trying to will them to go on a little bit faster because King was inching a couple of attempts a lap, just a bit closer to yourself. Just take us through what was going through your mind at that point, because I imagine it mustn't have been easy to navigate.
Yeah, it was. So I noticed, originally, I think the gap between myself and Paul was like 2 seconds, and as I got closer and closer behind Blunkfist and was it Tom Mayle, he started to creep up a little bit, and I think the gap got to within like 1.2, 1.3 at one stage. So I got onto I radioed Daniel and I overtook him and I said, sorry, but you're holding me up. And he wasn't too impressed about it, to be honest. He said he was faster, but I was managed to build a gap to him as well. So, but yeah, I had to make that move just to solidify my position in the race.
Oh, it sounds as though that was one of those Ferrari F1 team radio messages to say Reid Garton is faster than you, confirm.
Yeah, but it was a fun race. It was fun. But apologies to Daniel.
I'm sure he'll say apology accepted. But coming from taking the win then in the sprint race and heading into the feature, what was your game plan going into the feature? Because you've commonly been in this position now. You're making quite the habit of needing to fight your way from the back of the field.
Yeah, it just comes down to patience and just placing yourself in the right place. Pretty much, just be alert of what other people are doing. But yeah, well, you'll get to see in a moment what happens. So.
Oh, well, we do look forward to it. But until then, congratulations on the win in the sprint race once again, and thank you for joining us in the interview room.
Thanks, Paul. Take care.
You too. So hearing there from Callum Reid Garton, very happy with his performance. And also, as he was saying there, giving a lot of credit to Jean-Louis Deschamps for a brilliant pole lap in the Porsche, but the Porsche falling away over the course of the race distance. And Callum Reid Garton feeling it's because of the sensitivity of the Porsche to its tyres, as it's just seen its pace drop off. But also conscious there of that dynamic of Paul King following him through the carnage on the opening lap and staying with him. The Ignium Motorsport driver, to be fair, right there with Callum Reid Garton for a good amount of time over the course of the race. And Reid Garton having to find his way past Blomqvist in the end in order to maintain that gap for the eventual win. Well, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to have the chance to speak to Matt Caruana. He's not available for comment at this point in time, as far as I'm aware. If we do get the opportunity to catch up with him in the build-up to the feature race, we definitely will so, ladies and gentlemen. But until then, we will be right back in approximately 5 minutes' time for the build-up to the feature. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it. Silverstone in a 60-minute feature race is something to behold, and there's going to be plenty of racing action, I'm sure. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to the second race for tonight. That being, of course, the feature race, the 60-minute race to determine who's going to be picking up the second bounty full of points at Silverstone as the Royal Drivers continue to make their way around the circuit right now. In this final practice session, we are approximately somewhere in the region of about 3 to 4 minutes away before we start to form the grid. Unfortunately, our timer at the top there experiencing another small timing glitch, but this does happen every so often. But right now, you'd have to say, after a rather tricky race in what was the sprint for a good number of drivers, we are going to have quite the mixed grid, and if anything, it's going to be unpredictable now, with our faster drivers coming charging through the field as rapidly as possible, but also a good number of drivers find themselves out of position and looking to try and capitalise on being out of position to get the best possible result within the feature. But whilst we are waiting right now, we say hello to a number of you in the chat there, and we can see we've got Ultra Stelios 2010 there saying, oh man, I miss Next Gen. It's been a few years since I've raced. I've got to hook the sim chassis back up soon, and we'd love to have you back, Ultra Stelios. Whether you're fast, slow, it doesn't matter. Having a good spirit, a racing spirit, that's all we look for, and great sportsmanship as well, and we'd love to see you back out on the circuit one day. We see Billy Fletcher there as well, saying in the YouTube chat that with regards to his incident in the sprint race, there was contact between him and Edmonds, which saw Edmonds spinning Fletcher as a result. We can also see K teams there cheering on, and we'll celebrating Caruana, Garton and Edmonds taking the wins in the what was the sprint race there in the Facebook chat. We also say hello to what is Mark Sykes there in the Facebook chat, Next Gen Racing, and we hope you're doing well, Mark, and that you're having a good day as all our drivers continue to make their way around right now. We also say hello to Tom Mao, who earlier was talking about the timing issues that we saw of our drivers coming into the pits. But ladies and gentlemen, I do believe we are now coming to the end of this final practice session, and we are about to start forming the grid for the purposes of the feature race. So as our grid does form here and we get ready to go racing, hopefully this time we will have a slightly more accurate grid to take you away, as we are just waiting for all of our drivers to start to fan onto the grid here. And I think we are going to be a little bit out of sequence here. So as a result, we will just have to wait and see as our drivers all appear right now. And this is why the unfortunate things, we've taken a look back at the replay rather than the live race, but still we push forward there as everybody now gets ready to go racing for 60 minutes. Indeed, the big question on everyone's mind is, when do they pit? Now, we did see in Lobby 2 last night, it was the case that a number of drivers tried to pit and go for an undercut. None more so than Josh Wiggins, who went for an extreme undercut, pitting after the opening 15 minutes and trying to make his way to the lead for the purposes of the Pro Class. It wasn't to work out completely with Ed May taking the win in the end, but it almost prevailed, and that could be something that a driver can utilise today, as the gridding process is almost complete. And now we make our way for the formation lap here as we try to take a look at the grid, and unfortunately that data are not accurate here, so it will be Jason Landry who takes us away from pole, with the Canadian having that difficult sprint race, and now the pro driver once again have that opportunity to shine in making that feature race here as he comes on down towards turn number 16. The safety car peels out the way, and it's DDD Blaming and Jason Landry who take us away from the front of the field. And as they come out of the final corner, it's go, go, go for the feature race. As Vlaming tries to get the jump there in the field, but Landry in return, in fact, getting a better exit. And as they make their way into turn number 1, we can see further out everybody concertina it in. But the field this time, and I think we've already got a car spin. That's Vlaming spinning. And goodness me, he's going to come right back across the field as Kenny Herriman's, again, a victim of an incident on the opening corners. That's also why the other challenge machines clip with DD Vlaming, as we see all the field coming on through. Actually, I can see getting a bit of a side-by-side with Lucas Romano there. And also, I believe that's Mark Fletcher being knocked a little bit wide as the two BMW drivers try to navigate the space. We've got Switchback Motorsport Ferrari going wide. That's Stefan Bianborg Rasmussen. As further back, Matt Emmons and Rasmussen coming into contact with one another. Emmons being pushed wide while the two. And as they all come through, we've still got more carnage to go. As that's Usto who's right in the middle of the road there, going down onto the Wellington Straight. Oh, goodness me! And that's Emmons up into the stratosphere there. As you can see, multiple drivers involved in massive contact there. It's going down onto the Wellington Straight. And Emmons, well, he's definitely got a new boot in the back of that that BMW. I can tell you right now, as a lot of drivers involved in a huge crash on what is the Wellington Straight there. And as we continue to go racing right now, it is the case that as Emmons struggles to get that car to move in a straight line, it's Landry leading ahead of Matthew Hodges, and Hodges, the prime driver here, has had a good start as they all make their way on through. Philbert Dougal, meanwhile, putting pressure already. Well, he's under pressure for Andy Beck. Well, no, my apologies, that's not Beck, that's Fairclough behind. He's chasing after Beck, I should say, McDougall, as they all make their way on through. The speedy sequence of corners now turns 10 through to 14, but as they come charge on down for the time being, it is the case that Alexander Pataki tucked in behind, and I believe we have lost a driver, and that is Fairclough, who's done a disappearing act, and Deegan Fairclough has dropped a degree down the order here as he heads down what is the Hanger Straight here. He's going to look for the move on what is Homer quite early here. It's the case, well, in fact, that's Fletcher trying to make the move on him as ahead of them. It's the case that James Slate's trying to make the move here on Homer as Batak is ahead of them, but it is the case that right now you can see that Homer goes around the outside. Slate tries to do the same as well as they make their way through into turn number 17 and complete the opening lap. And as they come on through, we can also see now it's the case that Deegan Fairclough trying to come through as we see that Batak is forced wide there, and it is the case Batak having to take evasive action as he now returns to circuit, dropping down to P12. That's P3 in class. So after one lap, it is Matthew Hodges, the CXR Project Black driver, leading ahead of Jason Landry in P2, followed by Dirt Bouts in P3, and there's Matthew Addy P4, Anthony Beck in P5, followed by Philbert Dougal in P6. Then we've got Arjen Kregel in P7, followed by Daniel Holmer in P8, Deegan Fairclough P9, Mark Fletcher P10, and as I just about to say that, there's been another incident here as we've got a car parked up on the apex there of turn number 4, and that's James Slates, who's had a spin, and as a result now, I think he's been involved in an incident with Gus Franken, and now as both drivers return racing, James Slates, who was making ground, has now got it all to do again. It's kicking off constantly here as we see Tom Mao now trying to come through here. Tom Mao has gained massively at the start of this race. He's gained 15 places. He disappears into the ether and then reappears coming into turn 7, and it is the case that he makes his way through despite his connectivity issues. He's found a huge number of places at the start of this race. As meanwhile, a bit further back, we can see we've got Jeremy DeBova here trying to hold off what is Robert Dasunik, the pro driver, trying to get the inside of the pro driver into turn number 9. He's going to get this done surely as they make their way on down here, and it's the case that Jeremy DeBow not going to contest this one because they're not in the same class. So you see Billy Fletcher trying to find his way through here as well, and the Audi driver on the offensive here as he sees an opportunity to take on Dasunik in the run down into 10 and 11. They make their way down into the sweepers here, and a bit further back we can see Håkon Grebstad here trying to make the move of what is Dadswell, in which they're trying to gain that position as he also holds off Lucas Romano behind. I think he made the pass of Lucas Romano into 10, and as they emerge through the corners right now, it is the case that we can see here Grebstad just trying to put the pressure on and get the move done as they make the way down the straight here. You can see it's the case that Grebstad tucks in behind what is a Dadswell there, really keeping it close. They both go past Alexander Patak, who literally moves out of the way and says he doesn't want any part of this, does the AM driver. He's seen enough already to know those pros are coming through very fierce, and meanwhile Billy Fletcher up in front has found his way past Robert Dasunik. It should be pointed out he managed to get past the fellow pro driver in the Lamborghini Huracan, and he's making progress right now is Billy Fletcher as he's gained another position as they go on to lap number 3. And as they make their way across the timeline, we're hearing that Matt Emmons just leaving the pit lane right now, a lap down effectively, and Emmons, how it has gone from good to bad to disastrous in the space of just one lap, and I think he was a victim in the end of just the collisions around him. As we see here Fletcher trying to go 3 wide as that's Callum Reid Garton just completely backing off into the corner, and this completely changes the dynamic as we see a Grebstad here. We side by side with Caruana. He's got Callum Reid Garton now as well there, and Garton, well, I think he's got multiple pros coming through, and he'll be thinking at this point, goodness me, they're all trying to come through at once. I don't want to be a part of this, and indeed he moves out of the way. Now Caruana all over the back of Grebstad, and we know that these two have a fierce rivalry between them. We've seen contact between them time and time again over the opening 3 rounds, but this time Grebstad gives him the space, and Caruana just comes on through there, and I think Grebstad trying to say, okay, Caruana, take me up towards the leaders right now. I don't want to fight this one anymore as they make their way through turn 7 and up towards turn 8. You can see Caruana going a little bit wide there and taking some gravel with him, but I don't think that's going to cost him too much pace as he now goes hunting down Dadswell ahead of him in the run for P18 overall. As they come charging down the straight once more, we see Grebstad staying with this pack as he makes his way to turn 9. Now meanwhile up ahead James Slates, there we can see Dadswell coming through. and Slate's going a bit wide there, coming out of turn number 9 into 10 they go, and Caruana all over the back of Slates as they make their way through. Meanwhile, we can see a bit further up Billy Fletcher making the move around the outside of what was their Van Hoenacker at turn number 13. Very, very brave to do that at Beckett's as they make their way down from Chapel onto the hangar straight and head up towards turn number 15. As they come on down, you can see further back there side-by-side moments between all the different drivers, but this is between drivers in different classes. The only exception here would be, well, in fact, we can see Callum Reid Garton and James Slates here as they've got a driver between them. That's Håkon Grebstad between the two Pro-Am drivers as they come on down, and Callum Reid Garton trying to make this ground as rapidly as possible here, and James Slates losing out simply because he had Håkon Grebstad between him and the guy he was meant to defend against. But you can see now as they make their way through turn number 17 and into 18 here, it's Gus Franken who's losing out now. So, oh goodness me, and just at the head of the road, that's both Dadswell and also what looks to be the Sunic having a moment there, coming out to the final corner, both drivers into the tyre barrier. Dadswell does get the car back under control, but for goodness me, we are seeing more carnage between multiple drivers here, and as a result, Dadswell now right out of the hunt for that potential top 5 in the Pro class, and I think the two of them just not seeing one another. As we see there, that's not Stephen Gamble versus Booster, that's Matt Edmonds who's a lap down trying to find his way on through as our drivers make their way around the circuit here. And meanwhile, we look from what is the battle for P30 right now. It's a bit further out the road, and we can see it's Lucas Romano who is behind him, got James Slates here as they make their way into turn number 6. But further in your picture there, we can see Tom Edmonds just trying to gain places as the Pro-Am drivers of Andrew Lovesey and also Stephen Norman, both of them from Ignium Motorsport Blaze. They will not want to fight one another, but they're both fighting with Tom Edmonds here. They want the Huracan driver to get a move on as they make their way out to 7 and into 8 right now. They come charging through the right-hander here of 8 and up towards 9. They settle down into a formation for now, but I wonder how long it will be before we start to see some more action between these guys as they make their way through 9. Oh my goodness, it has been a very dramatic opening set of laps as we see now Håkon Grebstad trying to make his way past Van Hoenacker here, the Pro driver trying to come past the AM, and he's trying to do what Fletcher did only moments ago, but he's not close enough to get it done. As we're hearing Dadswell's had another moment out on circuit, and the Vorodovo has jumped to the pits as well. It is continued to prove a difficult race as we see Grebstad here just trying to charge his way past the AM driver as they make their way down the hangar straight. I don't think we're going to be seeing a defence here from Van Hoenacker, and you can see Callum Reid Garton flashing his lights furiously there to say, look, just let me through, there's an opportunity, do not turn in, and he's allowed to do so there. And Van Hoenacker very cognizant of the fact that the Pro-Am driver wanted to come through as well. That's great awareness there as we can see Lovesey meanwhile trying to get onto what is the back of James Slates here, trying to get onto the RP Motorsport driver and getting the move done here, but not able to find a way on in for the time being as we ride on board with Stephen Norman here, who's got the popcorn seat view of the battle between the two Pro-Am drivers. His teammate of course just in front of him trying to find a way past the RP Motorsports driver as they go on to what for them is lap number 5. Now as they make their way through turn number 1 here, no attempt this time from any of the drivers, but you can see how they all stay together. And a little bit further up, that is Tom Edmonds who is clustered in with a number of drivers. He's trying to find his way past Blomqvist as they all come up through the corners. Well, I think Edmonds getting the move done there on Daniel Blomqvist as they come through, and Blomqvist is turned, and he's turned across what is both the Ignium Motorsport Ferrari and also the RP Motorsport Ferrari there, and Blomqvist just being turned at the last moment as he tries to rejoin the Bright Esports driver. Not in a happy place right now is the Swede as he emerges back onto the circuit. My goodness, and you couldn't predict this drama all the way through. I know we had a dramatic Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, but I didn't think it'd carry through to this as we see Elliott Harper right now chasing down what is Håkon's shot, and Harper just trying to find his way through the field and try to steer clear of all the chaos as he makes his way around in P28 right now and looks to move up to P27. But this race definitely eventful, and we haven't even covered 10 minutes of it yet as our drivers continue to make their way around on the circuit. And we can see a bit further up the road right now, we've got Jochen Seeger here attacking what is Alexander Patak, as we do see just ahead of them there Stephen Norman going wide out of turn number 9, and the Pro-Am driver there has to be careful because there will be track limits warnings if he continues to do that as our drivers make their way on through, and as they come charging down towards what is turn number 13 and through the right hander they come here as we're hearing Daniel Blomqvist has had another moan out on the circuit right now. We continue to watch the BMW driver here chasing down his Audi opponent. The BMW very strong on the straights here when it gets a good exit out of 13, and you can see that in the way he's closing up to the back of the Audi, but not able to find the move this time. He has to wait, and the Pro-Am driver Peter Lemkins behind, I think just getting a little bit impatient right now, looking to come on through here and feeling that he can find his way through sooner rather than later, but will he be able to do so? That is the question as our drivers come on through, and you can see that Lemkins trying to put the car up on the inside into 16, not not able to find the space right now, but he is looking for it, as we are here that Deegan Fairclough has passed Phil McDougall further up the road. That's a change of place overall, but not within class, as our drivers go on to another lap here. And Seagate really feeling that pinch from Lenkins, and look at how much time he's lost it as Batak goes wide. Batak misses turn 1, and as a result, as he re-emerges, well, this is going to enable Jochen Seagate to gain massively, as we can see Haken's shot here under pressure. Oh, goodness me, and Batak spinning on the rejoin to the circuit. It is just a disastrous day for so many drivers, as meanwhile we look a bit further up the road and we can see Beck meanwhile in P12 right now, P5 in class. He's just had Matt Caruana come through past him, and Beck, he's P5 in his class and continue to try and chase down Holman and Phil McDougall a bit further up the road, but it's a long way between those guys as our guys continue to race around the Silverstone circuit, which after 10 minutes of racing, well, 11 minutes of racing right now, we thought the sprint was full of action. It's the case the feature has decided to up the ante considerably as we continue to look further around the field, and we can see it's the case right now that we got the privateer of what is Deegan Fairclough here making his way through the sequence of quarters, and as he comes through the right-hander here and charges after what is Mark Fletcher just ahead of him right now. Fairclough trying to get on the offensive here versus Fletcher, as Fletcher flashed his lights furiously there to Dirk Bouts to say to the Pro-Am driver, look, just let me on through. And I think it's the case that he's going to be let on through there, and Fairclough right now will be thinking, hey, what about me, as they make the way through turn number 15. We wasn't close enough to capitalise on the potential opportunity there as they make the way on down into the braking zone for turn 16, but he's going to look to the inside. Here he goes to the move, and indeed Bouts there aware of the BMW driver coming on through, and he's going to gain quite a bit as a result of that. He had to drive off racing line for a brief period of time, but he will gain, he won't lose too much. And meanwhile you can see ahead of these guys is Matthew Addy, your AM leader, who having had that disastrous sprint race starting right up the front of the Anfield. Well, he started up as he continues, he started as he plans to continue on racing, and that is as the leader of the AM class here as he makes his way through P3 overall, leader of AM. As meanwhile, a bit further back there we can see Dirk Bouts get it very wrong into what was turn number 3, and he's enabled Phil McDougall to come through there. McDougall gaining the place, and now Bouts, well, he's chasing after the BMW driver as we ride on board with the Ferrari 488 here as he makes his way down where's the Wellington straight and looking for an opportunity here to come back. And where's McDougall? He's going to look for it here. He's going to go for it. Is he on the inside? Not quite close enough, but McDougall opens the door there to say that he has got the space to play, and I think Bouts isn't going to hesitate to capitalise on this as they make the way through turn number 7. You can see Bouts going for the deep initial line. He's trying to cut back on exit here to get the better run up towards turn 9. He's not quite close enough right now as they make the way through turn number 8 and build up the speed. As they make the way down towards turn number 9 right now, will he find a way on through? Well, he's coming out of slipstream briefly here. I think he felt he had an opportunity to try and intimidate a move, but he wasn't able to in the end, as we're hearing that Callum Reid Garton has passed Jean-Louis Deschamps for P13 out on circuit. That is effectively P5 in the Pro-Am class right now as our drivers come on through here into the high-speed sequence, and it must be absolutely nail-biting for Bouts right now because he wants to be as close as possible to the back of that BMW before the exit, but you could see there where Bouts getting a decent turn in, but nowhere near as good a launch out 13, and that means McDougall now will have the best part of half a second to play with as they make their way down towards turn number 15. Once again they come roaring on down, and you'd have to say that right now as we see Deegan Fairclough there coming through past Matthew Addy, I'd say McDougall's safe from Bouts for the time being. And oh goodness me, we've got a driver off there, and that is Phil McDougall getting it wrong at turn number 15 and just going wayward there, and that has enabled Bouts to get back ahead as the CXR Project Black driver has a moment he won't want to repeat. As you can see now, Matt Caruana all over the back of him, as meanwhile Billy Fletcher chasing after Tom Mail, and Fletcher, well, he's made his way all the way up to what is P9 overall. That's P5 in class as they make the way onto another lap. Onto lap 8 they go as they come through. Now the Luxem 24 MV esports driver will need to find a way past Tom Mal. The two of them came together in the sprint race. Will they come together again? Well, we hope not, of course. We hope for some great side-by-side action, but it doesn't get too close for comfort as they make the way into turn number 4 and come out of the village sequence and up towards Aintree at turn 5 and onto the Wellington straight. But as they make their way on through right now, we say hello to Matt Evans in the Facebook chat there, and as they continue to charge on down towards turn number 6 right now, building up to an absolute crescendo, and we're not even 15 minutes in. We're only 15 minutes in now right now as Tom Mal there with the connectivity issues by the looks of things keeps phasing in and out of existence, and as they make their way through the corner you can see it's the case that Daniel Holmer, the Swede, at the head of this, and well, it's the case that the Pro-Am driver here will want to let those pros through sooner rather than later. He won't want them trying to force a move on him, the Bright Esports driver, because he's chasing after Bouts just ahead of him. But how will he manage this as they come roaring down towards turn number 9 here? They come into the right-hander, and as they come charged on through here, no no change right now, but Fletcher very close. He's going to look for the move. It's Billy Fletcher versus Tom Male as they come on down, but you can see here how Male able to get past what is Homer there as they come through, the pair of them, and literally Fletcher tuck it in so tight to the back of the Huracan driver in order to get past Homer. I think if he'd been any further back, Homer would have had to shut the door there because he was running out of road to give the space, but right now Fletcher intensely pursuing the Huracan. Both cars of course running the Audi V10 engine, but it is the case that right now the Italian machine ahead of the German machine and trying to hold on as the Audi R8 driver tries to find a way to gain the position as they come roaring through turn number 15. He's right all over the back of what is Mountain as they make their way down into the braking zone. No way through this time, but right there and behind them Daniel Homer right now getting a treat of a spectacle as we can see Matt Caruana inching ever closer to this, and that's why Fletcher wants to get a move on here. And now they are tucked in behind what is Dirt Bouts as they come out the final quarter to go on to lap number 9, and you see Bouts keep being aware of the fact that Mal's going to send it on the inside here, and Fletcher wants to try and come through, and this is very brave stuff from Fletcher and Mal. They are literally playing with traffic as they come on through, something you should never do of course, particularly if you're a youngster. Never play with traffic, kids, but it is the case that right now these adults are playing with the traffic, and it's phenomenal in terms of them finding a way through without losing any time. And Caruana meanwhile, well, he's now got to deal with the fact that he's got Daniel Homer ahead of him, and then up ahead of Daniel Homer is Dirt Bouts as we can see here. Caruana trying now to siphon his way on through. He's going to do it quite easily here. He's not going to have as much difficulty with the Bright Esports driver as the other pros did, but of course they caught Homer at the wrong time on circuit. That's not to say that Homer driving erratically or anything, just it's the timing of when you catch up to a driver in a different class. So you see Caruana now in that unfortunate situation where he's literally tagging the back of Bouts there as close as he dare go, and as they make their way through turn 8 right now, it is the case that Caruana coming on through and gaining another place, as meanwhile we look back to Fletcher versus Male here as they come on through. We ride on board with the Audi driver as they make their way up towards turn number 10 as close as he possibly can get. He's fallen back a little bit this time, not as close, but now he doesn't have to navigate a back marker and try to stay close to Tom Male, and this is opportunity. He's right there into the braking zone for 13, but as you can see the two drivers are merging in. We've got a car off circuit, that's Matthew Addy off circuit, he's rejoining here, and will this be an opportunity for Fletcher to pick up a brief double toe? It's not, but you can see just how close he's trying to get as he makes his way down the straight into turn 15. He's not quite there, but surely within the next lap or so he's going to be looking for a move, as he's all over the back of the Huracan driver here as they emerge from turn number 15 down into 16, where it's an opportunity to go for the send. He's not quite there, and of course thinking about the bigger picture, given they've still got just over 40 minutes of racing, would it be wise to try and send it and put some extra wear into the brakes and the tyres this early on? Probably not, but they've got to be aware of the fact that Caruana is only 1 second away from this battle right now, and he's inching closer with each and every corner. Well, as they come on down through the corners right now, it is the case a bit further back. We can see that Dirt Bouts here just trying to hold on to P2 in the Pro-Am class as he's got Homer and Phil McDougall all over the back of him. But apologies, ladies and gents, we just cut away back from that because it did look as though there Fletcher had the first signs of a move, as it was the case that Tom Male having to go defensive into turn 3. And as they make their way out of 4 here, will he be close to Fletcher? He's got the run in. This could be an opportunity. He's getting closer and closer, but he's not quite there. It's just not enough. Surely at this distance, he would love to go for it, I'm sure, but no way through. As meanwhile, we look back to Bouts here, who's ahead of Homer and Phil McDougall. And McDougall recovering here and catching up to the back of this pack very rapidly as the CXR Project Black driver, as he looks at potential opportunity here, but not able to find it for the time being, as he follows on through the right-hander at turn number 7. Now, it's the case that these guys make their way on through. We look a little bit further down order very briefly, when in fact we just look back up to Fletcher once again all over the back of Mal here as they come on through. But we are hearing that it's Lucas Romano has passed Stephen Norman just recently, and we will take a look back at that very shortly in terms of drives further down the field, as we can see Fletcher just hanging with Mal for the time being. And will this be the opportunity he was hoping for as he comes on through the course this time? But look at Caruana all over the back of the pair of them now, and Caruana, you'd have to say, is looking very bold and very brave, and I think he will be feeling that if Fletcher can't get the move done, as we can see there a flash of the lights from Fletcher. I'm not sure whether he's trying to signal Morse code for can you go a bit faster, or Morse code for your connection is a bit erratic, as they make their way through turn number 15. But regardless, I think he might also be signalling Morse code that Matt Caruana is here, and Caruana will not want to stay behind these guys for long. You can see it, the Apex Tech Racing driver here all over the back of the pair of them as they make their way through turn number 17 once again. And after getting past Tom Male and Billy Fletcher, it'll be the case that Caruana will go chasing after Faircow, and then it'll be Mark Fletcher, and then lastly Jason Landry. But right now he's got to focus on the here and now, and as they come up into turn number 1 once again, no way through this time, but you can imagine at some point one of these drivers is going to go for the move, and when he does it will erupt as we see Fletcher there once again looking for that potential move. Not close enough, because we're hearing that Beck, Hereford and also Norman all into the pits. We're already starting to see our early pit stops at the 20-minute mark, and those are the key undercut pit stops, as meanwhile Caruana continues to follow. And further down that order, we can tell you that right now we've got a number of drivers who are off the lead lap, and they're all trying to get back onto the lead lap, and that includes Daniel Blomqvist, Matt Emmons, Andrew Lovesey, Navarro Debova, Morten Oosthuus, DDD Vlaming, Kenny Hermans and Paul King. In fact, I think we've had the retirement of a couple of drivers as well within that group, Vlaming, Hermans and Paul King being the retirements, as we see. And now it's the case that Fletcher close enough to look for the inside here on the XS7, and as they make the one through, they made contact last time, but now as they come on through turn number 8 here, it is the case that Tom Male, the head of this pack, Fletcher right in the middle, and as they come charging on through to turn number 9, well, Fletcher's got to do one of two things here. He's got to either go for the move or he's got to go defensive. He does both, and as they try to head up towards turn number 10 right now, Fletcher's so close he could reach out of his window and touch the rear wing of Tom Male's car, and as they charge through into turn 11 and 12 and then through into 13 and 14 very shortly, you could see Caruana having to back the Lamborghini off there. I think what he's trying to do, he's trying to get the double toe out of turn 13 and carry it all the way through down towards turn 15 here, and Caruana with a very good exit, and you can see the Lamborghini driver there getting much closer now as they come down the hangar straight. He's peeling out for the move here, and Caruana's going to look for it, but he's not close enough, and these three all running nose to tail still, as meanwhile it is the case further up the road we can see that Deegan Fairclough all over the back of P3 man Mark Fletcher here as they make their way through the corners. But meanwhile we can see that Billy Fletcher has gone for the move versus Male here. Oh goodness me, and Caruana there with a little bit of a bounce. I think there might have been some contact with Tom Male, that Caruana dropping down, and he's now back down to P9. There was a small bit of contact, and Caruana's got it all to do again. I guess the good news for him is the fact he hasn't dropped behind any fellow pro drivers, but now he does have his rival all over the back of him. That's Håkon Grebstad, and he's got Dirt Bounce, who is right in front of him, and he's got a face full of the Belgian as they make their way down into turn number 3. He goes to the move immediately, and Grebstad tries to follow here. You can see it's the case. Caruana does not want that McLaren anywhere near him as they make their way through turn number 4, and Grebstad is following through now as they both come on through. Meanwhile, Dirt Bounce will, after being unsettled through turn number 3, the RP Motorsports Seniors driver here has got Holman, McDougall and Garton all over the back of him once more as he flashes his lights out, I think trying to say to the McLaren ahead of him, look, I don't plan to go for the move, just don't knock me about, okay, as they make their way down in towards turn number 6, and as they make their way on through at this point you can see Holman, Phil McDougall coming together. McDougall trying to look to the inside versus Holman, he's not close enough, but Callum Reid Garton now, he's got all three of these drivers right in his sights here, and the BMW driver who is loving this opportunity to try and come through the field once again. What can he do from this position? We're not even halfway through the race right now, and it's building up to an absolutely phenomenal midpoint as we see Callum Reid Garton looking on the inside into turn number 9, and as they come through the right hand here, McDougall not defend it too hard, I think expecting Garton to take the move, instead wanting to follow his fellow BMW driver in the run down through Chapel and up towards the hangar straight. Well, we'll have to wait and see, of course, as they make their way on through, but right now as these guys come charged on through, we can see Deegan Fairclough all over the back of Mark Fletcher as they come roaring down towards turn number 15. Will he look for it this time, Fairclough? No, he's close, but he doesn't feel he's close enough here. The Car Gods driver just trying to stay as close as possible to Mark Fletcher, but now here's the opportunities on the inside down into 16. Fairclough makes it under braking here, and Fletcher, well, is he going to try and go for the cut back on exit? No, the Altitude Esports driver just tucks in behind. I think he's deciding to play it smart here, which is he's done enough to try and hold up Wes Fairclough for some time, but in the end just make sure he doesn't lose too much time battling as Caruana into the pits, interestingly. So Caruana's decided enough is enough after that moment, and he's in. Well, as he's coming into the pits right now, it is the case that a bit further down the order, well, we can see that Tom Male right now chasing after Billy Fletcher, but then Callum Reid Garton, he's already found his way past Dirt Bounce. Now, how will he find his way Also, he found his way past Phil McDougall. Now, how will he find his way past Dirt Bounce? I say, well, he's going to do it under brake it into turn 3 and really goes for it. And Garton just carrying so much momentum out of 2 into 3 there. And I think Bounce now falling victim to what is Phil McDougall on his inside here as the BMW army tries to come through. But we can see the Belgian holding on right now, not losing more than 1 place as they emerge. And we are hearing that Tom Edmonds into the pits. He's in fact coming into the pit exit right now as these guys make their way charging on down. Matt Caruana, after his pit stop, has come out in P18 and he's got himself a little bit of clear road, 1.2 seconds to Peter Lemkins ahead of him. We'll have to keep our eyes on how the traffic potentially holds Caruana up or benefits him if he catches it at the right time. But right now, as we can see here, with our BMW sandwiching the Ferrari behind, we do have the Porsche Jean-Louis Deschamps here, the Delta Motorsport driver, who would love for an opportunity to go on the offensive here. We've seen the Porsche, it was very strong in qualifying. The 1-lap pace was sensational, but the Belgian are not feeling that pace in the race right now, although he's tucked in very closely here to the BMW of what is McDougall, and as they make their way down towards turn 11, he's just not close enough here. And what Deschamps needs to do, he needs to hang it as close as possible through this sequence of corners to try and get the run up towards 15, but even then it may not be enough. Really, his overtaking opportunities are coming into the heavy braking zones as long as he carries the speed through the sweepers. That's where he's got to get it done, because he has the handling and he has the low gear acceleration compared to the BMW as they make their way down towards turn number 15 again. Will he try and go for the move? Not this time, or will he? He's not quite there, the Delta Motorsport driver. He has to wait for another opportunity as he makes his way on through. Meanwhile, Håkon Grebstad here making his way past Matthew Addy, who peeled off into the pits, and the Ignium Motorsport driver right now in the number 36 car continuing his crusade up the field here. But remembering, of course, that Grebstad making that pit stop a bit later compared to Caruana, and we've heard Caruana's just passed Peter Lemkins. We will wait and see how that all plays out. Meanwhile, further down the order, I can tell you that right now down in P27, the Pro-Am driver, P12 in class of what is Stephen Norman, closing up to the back of Lucas Romano and doing so quite rapidly here as he makes his way through the sequence of corners. Although, to be fair, both drivers having made their pit stop, Romano most recently, and I think it may be the case that both of these guys trying to capitalise on the undercut as they make their way through turn number 15. Now, as they come through the sequence of corners here and make their way on down towards where it's turn at number 16, it is the case that right now we are seeing a bit further up the road that Matthew Addy, after taking his pit stop, has come out in P18. Well, P19 now Tom Edmonds has come on through here. But Matthew Addy timing his pit stop to perfection, because really the only drivers around him right now are faster drivers. Alternatively, in terms of the next driver up the road who he could be battling with, Gus Franken, well, Franken, to be fair, has yet to take his pit stop, and with Franken being 4 seconds up the road, this is a great opportunity for Addy to put in a couple of solid laps here to essentially make sure that Arjen Kregel up in P13, our current AM leader, is not able to gain from Addy pitting early. And this is working out very nicely for the Briton, who does seem to be on course right now to take the lead back when the pit stop window's over, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. As meanwhile, a bit further up the road, it is the case that Jean-Louis Deschamps continues his pursuit here of what is Dirt Bounce, and he cannot find a way on through right now, the Belgian, as they make their way onto the hanger straight once again. Here you can see that he's close, but he's not close enough, nowhere near close enough there, and feeling the pinch of straight line speed in that Porsche. It has not got the top speed compared to its peers. It's got the handling, but he needs the speed, and he hasn't got it in the bag this time as he makes his way through turn at number 15 once again. As he makes his way through. And meanwhile, we are hearing that Navarro Debova, in fact, with a retirement from this race as well, Andrew Lovesey and also Robert De Sunik. So the last of our runners out on circuit right now is Matt Emmons, who has, well, he's almost there to get himself back onto the lead lap for the majority of the drivers there. As we can see behind, that's Edmonds coming through on Franken. But Emmons right now with that fast repair to his advantage. I think he's just thinking about a race which has not gone his way at all after that major incident on the opening lap. As meanwhile, just behind, as I say, Gus Franken just being passed by what was Edmonds and following, and will be soon be trying to get past Emmons, and Emmons will be aware of the blue flags that are coming his way. But meanwhile, looking from what is down the bottom of our field towards the front of our field, Mark Fletcher chasing Deegan Fairclough here. And the two BMW drivers, after Fairclough got past into turn 16, it does look as though Fletcher staying very well with his BMW peer as they make their way through turn 7 and up into 8. And I do wonder here whether Fletcher is using Fairclough as a means to set the pace for himself, because the two of them were so close. And perhaps Fletcher just did not want the pressure of having to keep his fellow BMW driver behind him or maintain a pace which felt uncomfortable. comfortable. So instead, having a pace car in front of him, working out. And some drivers do prefer this approach. They do, given that it's a long race, in terms of we've still got half the race to go by the time these guys get onto what is at the end of the hangar straight. It'll be a situation where I think for Fletcher just pursuing Fairclough right now, and also perhaps using this as an opportunity to do a bit of fuel saving. Perhaps the occasional short shift up a gear, going down to straights here where you can use the toe off a Fairclough just to give them that little bit of boost on the straight as they make their way down towards turn number 15 once again. And you can see in the rear of your picture there, Billy Fletcher and Tom Male following suit here. These guys, of course, have to be wary of the fact that Fletcher is trying to come after them, and Fletcher right now matching them in terms of lap times. In fact, gaining 0.3 of a second on the previous lap. Fletcher is flying by comparison, and as they make their way down into turn 16, we're not going to see any moves, but we will see that Fletcher continuing that momentum here. P5 overall, P4 in class as he comes charging on through and heads into turn number 18. Now, as he makes his way through the corner a bit further down, I can tell you that Jean-Louis Deschamps right now all over the back of Matthew Addy, and he's got Phil McDougall on his 6 as they make their way onto the straight here. Now, how will the Porsche cope versus the very fast BMW? We can see already the overspeed that McDougall's got here as they make their way down the straight, and as they come into the braking zone, I think Deschamps having to think about going a bit defensive as McDougall has to back it out there. You could see how close he was getting under braking as they make their way down. Gus Franken and Argent Kregel side by side for a time, but it's the case of Kregel into the pit as meanwhile Deschamps now caught up behind Matthew Addy here as they make their way through turn 17 and into 18. 29 minutes of this race to go, and I think for Deschamps at this point it's all about damage limitation. He does not look comfortable in that Porsche. He looks comfortable through the corners as our cameraman takes a look in the pits. Now he looks back to the battle going on in the circuit, but I think one of those situations that right now Deschamps just needing to try and hold on as we see Matthew Addy here going for the move on Franken trying to turn in, but he finds a face full of Ferrari on the inside. There's contact between the two of them, and Jean-Louis Deschamps tries to get on the inside of the pair of them as they make their way through turn number 4, and Deschamps all out of position now as Addy goes side by side with Deschamps coming through Aintree corner here. They all come on through. And now this will be a great opportunity for Phil McDougall to get involved as we see the BMW driver here, the Briton, trying to look for a position on circuit. Well, we see Addy there going for the move, and Franken in there, not shutting the door, and there's contact with Franken and Phil McDougall collected along with Deschamps. And in the end, I think that was the case that we saw 2 by 2 trying to go into a corner where really it's only 2 at a time. And it's the case that Franken feeling the pain there and coming off the worst of the 4 of them, as we also saw there Alexander Patak almost being collected by McDougall as McDougall returned to the circuit on the run into turn number 7, but not to be Frankenstein. And now he's got Øystein Herford behind him here, and the Norwegian driver I think will be giving him a friendly reminder that he's coming on through very shortly here as they make their way up towards turn number 9. Now as they make their way through the right-hander here, it is the case that further back we've got Jakob Boschov trying to close up, and it's the Pro-Am driver here chasing after the Pro, the Ignium Motorsport Spark driver chasing after his colleague, if you will. But Gus Franken right now I don't think in any sort of mood to let drivers of another class on front, and you can understand why after what just happened there. But as he makes his way through at turn number 13 and 14, I think he will now be passed in the run down the straight. But as they make their way on down, we look a little bit further down our order and we can see that Arjun Kregel right now does have what is Jeremy Debova just ahead of him, and it is the case that the AM driver here, the Team Racing Netherlands driver Arjun Kregel, just trying to follow him through here after what was a difficult start to his race. As he makes his way on down the straights here, just continuing to build up that speed once again. No change this time around, not close enough, but he will benefit from that distant toe, and that will help him to extend. So we're hearing Gus Franken into the pits, probably to do some repair work on the car, and also at the same time to take his scheduled stop. So it's worked out conveniently for him, but it's not the sort of race that he would have wanted. As we look a little bit further up the order right now, and we can see here Stephen Norman in P24, but in the rear of your picture, that's Jochen Seeger, and well beside him right now, that is what is Beck, and that's Anthony Beck trying to go around the outside, and Seeger backing off there, and Seeger currently P3 in the AM class. In the Next Gen Racing Orange driver, whilst it's been a bit quiet on his front here, you'd have to say that he's been putting in some very good performances over the opening quarter, and again another solid performance here from the German as he makes his way into turn number 4. Now will he bring this home to the end? Well, in terms of pit stops, he is yet to pit, so I have to wait and see where his pit stop places him come the end. But in terms of right now, giving you an update on our top 5 in each of the classes, if not a little bit more, just give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we will bring that for you. We're just trying to get that information up on screen any moment. And there we go. It's the case that right now in the Pro class, Jason Landry currently leading by 6.7 seconds over, or 6.8 in fact, over Deegan Fairclough, Mark Fletcher, Billy Fletcher and Tom Malkin in pursuit. And then in the Pro category, it's Hodges leading ahead of Callum Reid Garton by 20 seconds, Daniel Holmer, Bounce and Hackenshot in the run of the top 5 in Pro-Am. And then looking at our AM drivers here, we've got Matthew Addy leading at 3.5 seconds ahead of Alexander Batak, Jochen Siegert, who the camera's focused on in P3, Arjen Kregel and Stefan Gamborg Rasmussen completing the top 5 there. And indeed a very tricky race for a number of our drivers here, and Phil McDougall right now trying to chase down what is Alexander Batak here. And of course these two drivers in different classes as they make their way on through at the right-hander, and you'd have to imagine at this point I think Alexander Batak is going to peel into the pits, and he does indeed, and McDougall will be breathing a sigh of relief there that he doesn't have to try and force on a pass on a different class driver as they make their way around to complete their respective laps. But as we can see here, it's now Phil McDougall coming through. Matthew Addy retakes the lead of the AM class, and Addy has got Jean-Louis Deschamps over the back of him, and I think Jean-Louis Deschamps, there's contact between the two of them there, and I'm not sure if Addy saw Jean-Louis Deschamps or whether Jean-Louis Deschamps came from a bit too far back, but I can tell you that right now Jean-Louis Deschamps' race, well, if he wanted the race to go any worse, he's just had it go even worse than before, and that is not good reading for the Belgians right now. You have to imagine that Porsche has been worked very hard, and now the damage is only going to make the job even harder as he comes on through. And we return our timing screens, of course, to their originals, as we can see here our top 30 on the left hand side once again here. But meanwhile, as our drivers come on through, we are hearing that Matthew Hodges has dropped down the order. Now what has happened to Hodges? We're just trying to find him. Well, Hodges has had an off somewhere, I can tell you. In fact, he's had an off through the high-speed section, and our leader in the Pro class right now making a rare mistake in Callum Reid Garton. Well, you could see how much time it's cost Hodges as Callum Reid Garton is continuing to fly here an inch ever closer. But meanwhile, speaking of inching closer, we've now got Billy Fletcher right on the heels of Mark Fletcher as Hodges into the pits. I think Hodges has had enough in terms of the current state of the car and needs a breather and put some fuel in the car, as we see Fletcher getting the better run versus Mark Fletcher, the two trade places. I think it's the case that Mark Fletcher in the end coming off of the racing line and expecting that Fletcher, the Billy Fletcher was going to come on through versus him later on, so it wasn't worth the fight. There was Mark Fletcher giving way rather rapidly as they now come through turn number 3 and up into 4, and as they come charging on through, our drivers right now pushed it to the absolute limit still with just over 20 minutes remaining. And a bit further down the order, I can tell you that Stephen Norman all over the back of Lucas Romano here as they make their way down the hangar straight here in the battle for P21, which in their class it's the battle for P10 in the Pro-Am. As we see Norman, they're doing a little bit of a weave in toning the move but not committing to it, just waiting for that opportunity. And Lucas Romano, to be fair, gaining a lot of places at the start of this race. Can the RP Motorsports Juniors driver gain even more deep on? Well, it's the case that Stephen Norman right now looking to the inside, but he's not close enough there, trying to make his opponent go deep into the corner by outbraking himself, but in the end not doing so, as they make their way through turn number 18 and go on to what for them is lap number 19. As they come on through right now, their racing continues, as meanwhile it is the case that our field has spaced out a little bit now, but we are still expecting a number of pit stops to come in, and it's particularly the pit stops of the top the top 8 that we're interested in. And also Dirt Bounce in at P10. When is he going to pit? As Lucas Romano with the disconnection there, I believe. Well, no, he has rejoined in the end. He's just rejoined and reappeared in TV. I was going to say that is a very sudden disconnection and very unfortunate, but he is back. Thank goodness. That would have been a disaster for the Belgian, and he carries on racing. But meanwhile, looking back up towards our leaders, well, he got past Mark Fletcher and now he's closed up towards Deegan Fairclough here. Billy Fletcher continuing the charge as Fairclough peels into the pits here, remembering that Billy Fletcher is yet to pit as well. And I think the Luxem 24 driver here just trying to go as long as possible. Now remember, the driver in the lead group, particularly the pros, who was first to pit was this man, Matt Caruana, who has had a pretty clean sailing time of it since he's had his pit stop. And as he makes his way in the long run down towards what is turn number 15 right now, you'd have to imagine that the Lamborghini Huracan driver from the United Kingdom will be doing everything he can just to put in lap after lap. A qualifying lap's effectively is what he needs to do, or at least match leader's pace. As Caruana into the pits again, and Caruana, well, something's gone wrong here. I'm wondering whether there looks to be some damage on the car, but also perhaps not enough fuel went into the car. That was a mistake in the pit stop, and Caruana with a second pit stop. This surely will now take him out of contention for the win in the Pro class. This is a surprise and not a welcome one, to be sure. As meanwhile we look a bit further around the circuit, we see Peter Lemkins here all over the back of Hackenschott as they come roaring through the right-hander of turn number 1 here. They've gone on to what for them is lap number 20 right now, and this, to be fair to them, is the battle for what is we see Holmer there coming out of the pits. He's had his pit stop, and Lemkins now, I think he's got to be wary. Well, Lemkins and Hackenschott have yet to pit, the pair of them, so it's the battle for P4 in their class out on circuit, but I suspect it's a bit further down the order when they take to pits as Caruana comes on through, and I think it could be the case that Caruana may have picked up some sort of penalty. I'm not 100% sure. He's come out of the pits very quickly though. It must be a penalty for Caruana for him to be coming out there as our drivers continue to make their way on through, and as they come roaring down into turn number 6 here, it is a situation that right now we can see that Lemkin's all over the back of the BMW driver and just trying to put some pressure on and get Hackenschott to make a mistake. They'll give him the opportunity to come through with 20 minutes remaining, still plenty of racing to go, and there can be a twist in the tail at any point as Jason Landry, our race leader, is now into the pit, and the Canadian, I think, just trying to bring home a good score here as we see Lemkins continuing to harass Schott. Now as they make their way through the corners here, we look a bit further down and we're hearing that Jakob Boschhoff chasing after what is Jean-Louis Deschamps here as they make their way through turn 8 and up into 9. The South African trying to put the pressure on. They've got Øystein Herford ahead of them, and as they make their way into the right-hander, well, Øystein Herford, the Ignium Motorsport driver there, can Boschhoff work with his effective quote-unquote teammate in order to be able to try and pull something off here? Well, I think it would be the case that Herford would rather just keep on pushing, as we are seeing all the leaders into the pits minus Billy Fletcher right now. So Billy Fletcher, the only one, and also Elliott Harper, the pair of them yet to make their pit stop. And as a result, I think it could be the case the two Luxim 24 drivers trying to go longer than everybody else and just give themselves that opportunity to stay right out there and have that track position. As we can see, Jakob Boschhoff here not able to close up enough versus Jean-Louis Deschamps in the battle for what for them is P8 in the Pro-Am class as they make their way into turn number 15. Now as they come on through, in the meantime here, we are hearing, as all the pit stops go, Jakob Boschhoff into the pits. In fact, Jean-Louis Deschamps has already made his pit stop, so Boschhoff there, well, Boschhoff had already made a pit stop, I think, for damage on the car. So as a result, Boschhoff in again, and as he makes his way in right now, we're seeing Jean-Louis Deschamps here chasing after our driver ahead as they continue to make their way on through around the circuit, and Deschamps trying to chase down Øystein Herford here, not to gain a position in class, but to just gain some time and track position. Meanwhile, a bit further, we can see Tom Edmonds here all over the back of Callum Reid Garton, and the pro driver trying to get past the pro as quickly as possible here to go chasing after Håkon Grebstad, who is 4.5 seconds up the road as they make their way on through turn 6. You can see Callum Reid Garton there trying to come back, having a little bit of fun with the pro driver here. I think Edmonds has got this move done, and at the end of the day he will now try to break away as they make their way onto the old start finish straight. But meanwhile, with all this going on, we are in pit stop season right now, and we are seeing the number of pit stops coming to the end. As we're hearing that Matthew Addy, well, I believe, where is Matthew Addy in all this? Well, I think Addy's just had a run off circuit somewhere coming into turn number 6 and 7. He's had a lock up on the brakes from what I'm hearing, and Addy getting it wrong there. As into the pits comes Billy Fletcher, I can see outside my commentary box right now, and Elliott Harper, will he be peeling in as well? We'll wait and I'll tell you as soon as I can see whether he's peeling in, but it is the case that right now Matthew Addy continuing on his way round. And with regards to Elliott Harper, I don't think Harper's coming in, so Harper will go on to a lead. And in fact, Harper made his pit stop earlier on. So as a result, Elliott Harper right now, you'd have to imagine, will be trying to come on through for the lead. As we do see here, Matthew Addy just bringing himself back up to speed. So as our drivers come through, it's now Elliott Harper leading the race here at Silverstone. Where is Billy Fletcher? Where's Jason Landry? There's Landry making his way through turn number 1. He's managed to clear the corner, but Billy Fletcher now getting himself up to speed. And we can see here, there's Deegan Fairclough and also Mark Fletcher. Billy Fletcher has jumped ahead of Fairclough and Mark Fletcher over the pit window. And where is Matt Caruana? Well, of course, he had that incident and the second pit stop, so Matt Caruana is out of this hunt. And as a result, this is a great opportunity for Billy Fletcher to be able to gain the lead back in the championship, as we see our drivers making their way on through here. But will we see Fairclough, Mark Fletcher or Tom Mao try to get back into the mix here? I think if they're going to do so, they need to put in a phenomenal lap and do it soon, because they're running out of time of day here. And once Billy Fletcher is back up to temperature in those tyres and those brakes, he will not want to give up that position as they come running through 6 and 7 once again here. And meanwhile, as they continue to make their way around the circuit, it is the case that we look a little bit further down. We can see Edward Lack here all over the back of Hackenschott as we jump on board here with the CXR Project Black driver, currently P11 within the Pro-Am class, as he makes his way into the braking zone for turn 3 into Village Corner here. And as he comes through the right-hander, he's trying to find a way to gain on the BMW M4, and in turn Schott trying to gain onto the back of Anthony Beck just ahead as they make their way out of 4 and up into Aintree at 5. They come through the left-hander here, and as they make their way on through, as we're hearing that Matt Evans has just gone into the pits and left the pits once again. So Matt Evans having his schedule stop and a difficult day at the office in the feature race. Is the case that Edward Lack right now not close enough to go on the offensive here as they make the way through turn number 6 and into 7, and as they come through the right-hander here, no change at this time as Elliott Harper is into the pit. So it is the case that Elliott Harper has already made one stop to repair the car, and he's made the second stop to take on the fuel as we look away from Edward Lack right now. And that does mean, ladies and gentlemen, that once again, unless I'm mistaken here, Jason Landry will be your leader as he comes across the timing line here to go on to lap 23. But you can see there's one person who wants that lead just as much, and it's Billy Fletcher who's chasing after him right now, and the gap between our leader and his pursuer is coming down at a very fast rate. That last lap from Billy Fletcher, 58.3 on an out lap there, coming out of the pits, a very strong lap for an out lap, and as he makes his way on through right now, continuing that pursuit after Landry, and I think Landry has got to be wary of the fact that the noose is tightening, and will it be the case that Billy Fletcher is able to close up the gap in time? We will wait and see. But meanwhile, further down the order and hunting after a critical position, Jean-Louis Deschamps here in P6 in the Pro-Am class, hunting down P5 in the hands of Phil McDougall, who's just ahead in the BMW, the CXR Project Black BMW, and then we've got Dirt Bounce, who's only a further second up the road from these guys as they make their way on through. Now you can see Bounce there, he's got Ashton Hereford trying to get into the mix, and this could be an opportunity as we're hearing that Ed Lack is into the pits now. Wasn't able to get past Hackenshot and Circuit, so he's going to try and do something in the pit. But as they make their way through the corners right now, you can see Jean-Louis Deschamps just not able to get close enough to that BMW as they make their way onto corner exit. And Dirt Bounce, to be fair, is going to be seeing Ashton Hereford come past. And I think it's a case of the Ferrari driver here. He could be vulnerable in the run down towards turn number 6. But you can see Ashton Hereford not able to overspeed versus Bounce. Hereford's going to be on the inside, and Phil McDougall's trying to look for it. He's trying to come on through with Ashton Hereford. But now, how will it play out here as they go side by side through turn 7? McDougall on the outside, Bounce on the inside as they come through the right-hander. I think Bounce is going to still hold on to this position, but now it's a drag race up towards turn 9, and Bounce holding firm here as they make their way down the old pit straight, and as they come all the way down towards turn number 9, it is the case that Dirt Bounce doing everything he can hold on, but you can see McDougall trying to go around the outside, but he goes way too deep under braking. McDougall loses out, and Jean-Louis Deschamps gains there as we can see McDougall flashed his lights, I think, thinking there was contact between the two of them. That was very nip and tuck, and Jean-Louis Deschamps gains the place, but now he's got to try and capitalise, because if he's there for too long, McDougall surely will come back, and he will come back with a vengeance. He will want both places. He won't just want to take on the Porsche driver as they make their way onto the hangar straight. And Jean-Louis Deschamps' situation here, what you've got to be thinking about at this point, it's a Ferrari ahead, it's not a BMW. You've got to try and push as much as possible coming onto these straights, and you've got to try and get this move done. It's not the dynamic of just do it in the corners. And as they make their way through turn number 15 right now, you can see Deschamps all over the back of what is Dirt Bounce as they make their way under braking into turn 16. Can he find a way through this time? No, he can't, but as they make their way down into turn number 17 right now, we ride on board here with the Porsche 911 driver as he goes up onto the sausage curb and loses some momentum as he goes a bit wide, and I believe McDougall's now going to try and come through on the inside here, and it is the case that McDougall does look to the inside here into turn number 1, and Deschamps loses out on the opportunity, and Deschamps just cannot seem to get that Porsche to harmonise with him and the circuit today, with only 12 minutes remaining plus the final lap in overtime. It is the case that right now Deschamps trying to fight back to get a P5 in the prime in the feature race, but can he do it? Well, I think that right now, as he goes a bit wide there out of turn number 4, it's just not working out for the Delta Motorsport driver, who's pushing tirelessly after that pole position in the Pro-Am class in qualifying. It's not worked out as he chases down that potential top 5. As we look to him to further down right now, we can see it's the case Lucas Romano has been passed by Stephen Norman here in the hunt for what is P7 in the Pro-Am class, and Norman making the breakaway as our field has separated out to a degree right now as we are just continuing to look around. And we see Jakob Boschhoff here chasing down Alexander Patak. This is for track position and overall position. It's not for class position as we've got the Pro-Am driver catching up to the back of the AM, and as they make their way on down right now, it is the situation that as they come roaring on down the straight once again here, no change at this point in time. We're just waiting to see what happens as they come on through. as these drivers making their way through turn number 7. We see Jakob Boshoff there just making his way from the inside, as I think Alexander Patak in the end just lifting off and coasting wide there to provide the space to the Pro-Am driver to come on through. But meanwhile, as they make their way around right now, we take a look back up towards our leaders, and Landry still leading. They're both in the picture right now, and you can see Landry leading by approximately 2.2 seconds. It's oscillating every so often, and it is gradually compressing in the favour of Billy Fletcher as they make their way through turn number 4. Now, to be fair to Landry, he has a reputation for being a very smooth driver throughout, and in the feature races, being able to cruise the feature race in terms of manage the pace. But right now, he's going to be put to the test in terms of he's going to have Fletcher coming up behind him. And you would be thinking, if it was, say, 15 or 20 minutes to go, he might be in the mindset of, okay, well, if Fletcher catches me, I might let him through, I might let him take the place, because there's a lot of time left, and I don't want to lose more places than just the one, because still being on the podium in second place is a brilliant achievement. But now we're in that situation, we've got 10 minutes remaining, and with Fletcher closing up to him, Landry might be thinking to himself right now, do I really want to just let Fletcher through? Do I not want to take the win and show that I can defend when I need to? And that is what's going for the Delta Motorsport driver's head right now. So as they get closer to one another, I suspect Landry might put up quite the fight here, because it would mean a lot to him to be able to hold off the driver who we are expecting to take back the lead of the Pro Championship come the end of tonight. But we will wait and see. And to be fair, in terms of lap time right now, Jason Landry is no slouch in terms of lap time. Although he was a second slower than Billy Fletcher on that previous lap, he is putting in a good lap after good lap. The consistency is showing with these laps all being 2:01s, and indeed as he makes his way down into turn number 15 right now, another good lap as they make their way around, as we are hearing there in the chat from the Ignium Motorsport drive with the Ignium Motorsport LMR channel on YouTube that Hereford has damage, so struggling on the straights, and indeed that would explain why he hasn't made too much ground despite the drivers around him, and he has been showing good pace, but it's not working out for him as he makes his way through turn at number 13 here. And you have to feel for the Pro driver, it has not been his day, but I'm sure he will come back stronger come the next race as he makes his way down the hanger straight. But as he proceeds, he means to go on right now. We take a look further down the field, and it is the situation that we see Gus Franken here chasing after James Slates, the AM driver here, after being through the wars and knocked about by other drivers in different classes. The RP Motorsports driver here trying to catch up to his teammate, if you will, and try and gain a position here. A little bit of rivalry between teammates never goes amiss as he makes his way up through the corner. But meanwhile, I can tell you that Jean-Louis Deschamps is chasing all over the back of Phil McDougall once again here as we ride on board with the Porsche 911 driver. He's right there. You could almost just reach out and grab that spoiler. He's looking for the move here into turn number 9. He's going to be very close. He's going to go for it here. And as they come side by side through the corner, can it will? In fact, that's turn number 1. My apologies. And as they come through the corner, he's not able to gain. But the Delta Motorsport driver here working so tirelessly hard to try and find a way past McDougall in a car which just does not have that straight line speed. He does not have the opportunity this time, but he's so close right now as McDougall has fallen back towards him, and Dirt Bounce has been allowed to run away as they make their way on through down on the Wellington Straight once again here, and Jean-Louis Deschamps doing everything in his power to try and close up as they come roaring on down. But meanwhile, as they make their way down the straight here, I can tell you in the lead of the Pro-Am battle, it's Matthew Hodges who is still leading over Callum Reid Garton, and he is leading right now by a gap of what is 2.5 seconds, and Hodges will be trying to bring this one home, as meanwhile it is the case that Landry and Fletcher are inching closer once again. The gap now down to 1.1 seconds and continuing to close with 7.5 minutes remaining as we continue to look at Jean-Louis Deschamps here through turn 9, trying to close up to the back of McDougall as McDougall goes a little bit wide there, and Deschamps now has an opportunity. He's going to try and capitalise down into 10. He's not close enough here as he takes the natural racing line, and as they make the one through, Deschamps going a little bit deep into 11, gets the car corrected for 12, and as they come on through and exit 13, you see McDougall going deep here. This could be his opportunity, or will it be enough? I don't think so, because that BMW now able to unleash the beast under the front of the car, and as they make their way down the straight once again, he has to wait patiently. There's no way this time as he makes his way on through, and we'll have to keep eyes on Callum Reid Garton. He's gaining at roughly 0.8 of a second a lap versus Hodges. And to give you an idea, well, Matthew Hodges here currently in P8, the 6R Project Black driver, who would love to bring home the win here in the Pro-Am class, but you can see Callum Reid Garton behind. But the good thing for Hodges right now, you could argue, he's got Tom Edmonds ahead of him, and Edmonds is matching him for pace. Now, why is that a good thing? It means on the straights, he will get the Toyota Lamborghini Huracan, which is slightly faster on the straights, and that will help Hodges just keep the BMW behind at bay delay for a little bit longer, but will it be enough? That is the question as they make the way on through. But to be fair, Elliott Harper now closing out to the back of Callum Reid Garton here. The pro driver will want to come on through because he will want to go hunt down Tom Edmonds, who's only 4.5 seconds up the road here, so it could all change in terms of dynamics, as we're hearing that Daniel Holmer has had a major off. And he's just returned to the circuit. The bright esports driver here, P3 in the prime class. He's still got an advantage over Bounce, McDougall and Deschamps. And speaking of Jean-Louis Deschamps here, you can see he's battling with McDougall down to turn 6. And this time, can he go for the move as they make the way through the corner? Not this time, but he's all over the back as they make the way through turn number 7. But he goes a bit deep there. And as they make the way on down through turn number 7 here, there's no chance this time. He's too far back. But speaking of a driver who's not too far back, these are your race leaders right now, ladies and gentlemen. Leaders overall. And leaders in the pro class. It's Jason Landry ahead of Billy Fletcher here, and the Delta Motorsport driver in the Ferrari trying to hold off the Audi behind him. And you can see Fletcher all over the back of Landry as we ride on board the gearbox of the Canadian as they make the way out to the final corner. 5 minutes to go, 3 more laps. Can Landry hold on to take the win, or will Billy Fletcher have something to say about that as they make the way into turn number 1? You can see that Audi getting closer as they make the way through turn number 2 into the braking zone for turn number 3. They come, and Fletcher has his first shot at nipping the tail of the Ferrari as they make the way on through. And as they now exit and come up into 4, you can see Fletcher all over the back as they come out of the corner and now make the run on through Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. They come on through here. Now it'll be all about the straight line speed. We know that Audi is similar to the Ferrari straight line speed, but of course Fletcher will have the toe to his advantage as they make their way into the braking zone for 6. Not close enough this time as we look back to the exterior cameras here, and it is the case that Landry trying to hold on, but will Fletcher be able to go for the move up into 9? Well, you can see Landry there just going a little bit deep into the corner, taking that V-shaped approach to turn number 7, whereas Fletcher taking a much more symmetrical line. And as they make the way through turn number 8, both drivers benefiting from their own approaches. And as they come down towards 9 right now, Fletcher very close. He's within 1.5 times. He looks for it. He decides not to here. It's a bit too late to go for the move. He wasn't close enough, but he's putting that pressure on right now. And as they come out of 9, up into 10, they roar. And as they make the way into left into right sequence, the high-speed sweepers away. Can Fletcher stay close enough here to gain the advantage he needs coming out of Chapel Corner and onto the Hangar Straight? Well, right now he's fallen back a little bit, but it's all about the exit here. And you can see it's the case that Landry is being caught up now as Fletcher's got the exit he needs out of Chapel Corner and charges down towards down the Hangar Straight here up towards turn 15. And as they make the way up towards the braking zone here, Landry has to go defensive. Fletcher's going to try and go around the outside. It's going to be a brave move, but will he be able to get it done as they come around? Landry drifting a little bit there. Fletcher on his inside as they come down to 16, and Fletcher pulls onto the racing line. Landry comes back at him here, but he's not close enough to come back, and that's Billy Fletcher into the lead with 2 laps remaining as he makes his way through the right-hander of turn number 18. And I think some hearts will be broken in the Delta Motorsport garage right now, but Landry, to be fair, did what he could, but in the end Fletcher just seemingly having the pace to outmatch Landry as they make their way onto the penultimate lap. Meanwhile, further down the order, I can tell you that Mark Fletcher all over the back of Deegan Fairclough right now. The 2 BMW drivers here, nose to tail. They've been like this for some time. And as they make their way into turn number 3, it's going to be Fletcher on the inside, Fairclough on the outside. They give each other spades here, but Deegan Fairclough now out of position, having to take a tight apex into turn 4. You can see the Altitude Esports driver Mark Fletcher looking for that run now, coming through Aintree and in the long run down towards turn number 6. And it's going to be quite the opportunity here if he can get within 1.5 times. He looks for it, does Mark Fletcher, but he's not close enough to go for it as he makes his way on through the corners. And meanwhile, in the battle for what is the prime lead, I can tell you that the gap between Garton and Hodges is now 1 second, and they've got Elliott Harper between them, and Harper is closing up to the back of Hodges right now, so Hodges may have some breathing room. We'll have to wait and see as they make the way on through, and as they come charge on through the corners. It's a situation right now where Fletcher tries to look to the inside, but Fairclough goes defensive at the last possible moment as they sweep through 9 right now. It's now elbows out. It's time. They know they're battling for the final step on the podium. And as they make their way down through 10 here into 11, Fletcher on the outside to inside line here. And as they come on through, it's the case that Fairclough stays ahead and look in the rear. You can see Tom Mount all over the back of this battle now as they come on through. And this is the horrible part now for what is Mark Fletcher, because he needs to get this move done. Otherwise, Fairclough will just back him up into Tom Mount. And then those two will be battling as they go 3 wide down on what is the Hangar Straight. But you can see Mount in the end backing out slightly as Fairclough goes defensive here. Mark Fletcher tries to go around, but in the end he can't find the long way around, so instead he goes to the cutback here. It's a smart bit of placement. The two BMW drivers are side by side down into 16, and as they come to the end of the penultimate lap right now, you can see that Mark Fletcher trying to go around the outside to inside, but he goes a bit deep under brake, and it's Tom Mayle who tries to capitalise. They come on through, they give each other space, and Tom Mayle sweeps on round. He has to use a bit of the width of the circuit there, but I think he's got it done as they make the way onto the final lap. The white flag is out and Tom Mayle gains P4. Can Mark Fletcher come on back, or will it be the case that Deegan Fairclough is now going to fall to Tom Mayle on this ultimate lap as they make the way into the braking zone? You can see Tom Mayle immediately under attack and Mark Fletcher coming on through as we lose Tom Mayle for a brief moment there, and he reconnects, and we can see it's the case that Mark Fletcher trying to bring back that P4 at the final hour. Meanwhile, I'm hearing that Callum Reid Garton has passed Matthew Hodges whilst this has been going on, so Callum Reid Garton is your leader in the prime class, and Matthew Addy in a last minute bit of late drama is into the pits, and I believe this is a drive-through penalty, but I think he's got more than enough of a gap to get this drive-through penalty done, so we look back to Tom Mayle instead, who is right now chasing after Mark Fletcher and Deegan Fairclough here. And can he find a way on through as Deegan Fairclough right now is not pulling away, and behind Håkon Grebstad and Tom Edmonds are nose to tail as they make their way through turn 8 and up into 9. Our leaders right now have made their way through turn 9 already. They're just a bit further up the road, but you can see that Deegan Fairclough trying to do everything he can to hold off his fellow BMW drivers. We see that Tom Mayle using the full width of the circuit to try and gain an opportunity. He's not able to do so here as they make their way down into turn 10. Into 11 they sweep, and it is the case that right now Mark Fletcher holding on, but will he be able to hold on for long enough? As meanwhile Håkon Grebstad here has got Tom Edmonds over the back. It's a late charge from RD Simsport. Can they gain places on the final lap? That is the big question. Will Tom Mayle right now inching closer and closer and closer? I don't think he's going to be able to get it done. He's going to try and go around the outside, but is it enough? He's going for it, and as they make the way on through, we do have to cut away, because as they make the way down right now, he's coming through the final corner, and it's going to be Billy Fletcher who takes the win in the feature race at Silverstone in the Pro Class ahead of Jason Landry, and in the end, in the battle for P3, it will be Deegan Fairclough who comes home in P3, completing the Pro podium ahead of Mark Fletcher, who held off Tom Mayle. Håkon Grebstad holds off Tom Edmonds for P6. There's Elliott Harper P8, followed by Callum Reid Garton, who takes the win in the feature race just ahead of Matthew Hodges in the Prime Class. A brilliant drive from the two of them. Matt Caruana comes home in P9 with a difficult day in the feature ahead of Øystein Herford, who completes our top 10 here as he sweeps on, well, top 10 in the Pro Class, I should say, as he sweeps on through. And it's going to be the case that we have a whole plethora of primes coming on through, with Daniel Holmer completing the prime podium here in P3 in class, P13 overall, ahead of Dirt Bounce here, who makes his way on through the final corner to take his checkered flag. Then it is Phil McDougall, followed by Jean-Louis Deschamps, who could not find a way past the BMW driver, but he was right there with him for so long. Jean-Louis Deschamps, I think, exhausted of options and energy, as Stephen Norman P17, Lucas Romano P18, and then it's Hackenshot P19, Jeremy DeBova P20, and then as he comes around, he takes the checkered flag in the AM class. It's Matthew Addy who takes the win in the AM class in the feature race. Despite the drive-through penalty, he's held on the end, and in terms of his peers, it is Arjan Kregel who comes out the final set of corners to take P2 in the AM class. A brilliant drive by the Team Racing Netherlands driver to turn around a difficult start to the proceedings today ahead of Stefan Gamborg Rasmussen. Switchback Motorsports pleased with that podium, I'm sure. And then it's Alexander Batak who just finishes outside the podium. The Dane finishing in P4 in class, P28 overall. Kurt Van Hoenacker takes a P5 in the AM class, and it will be Gus Franken who comes around to complete our last driver who's on the lead lap, as Gus Franken makes his way around to finish P30 overall. That's P6 in the AM class. He completes his race, and what a brilliant race in the feature. And as we see Billy Fletcher here making his way down the hangar straight, it's time to get ready for those post-race interviews, ladies and gentlemen. We look forward to hearing from Fletcher, to Garton, and also to Matthew Addy. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, with regards to our post-race interviews for the feature race, we're going to start from bottom to top once again, and start off with Matthew Addy. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be interviewed this evening, but he did drop me some thoughts, which wasn't aware of that he'd taken the win, but he did drop me a private message, which I was only to open going following the race, and it was the case that he confirmed to me that he took the win in the feature race in the M class, and with regards to his thoughts on the feature race, this is what he'd like me to say. In the sprint, he was on pole, but he got taken out by 3 pro drivers in separate incidents. He was involved in incidents with 3 of the pro drivers. He feels as though that was him taken out of the race, and this meant that he was placed quite high up the field for the feature race due to the reverse grid. And he managed to hold on to his own at the front for the first half of the race and run in P3 for a long time before his pit stop. That was P3 on circuit, if you will. The second half of the race was all about keeping it on track, and he decided not to take tyres at the pit stop, meaning that he started to lose traction towards the end of the race, which meant he started to accrue instant points. And that's why we saw him pick up the drive-through penalty right at the end, because in the final 20 minutes of the race he had 2 instant points remaining on his sheet before he was subject to a drive-through penalty, and because he had contact on what was the penultimate lap there with a Pro-Am driver, which I believe we did see. We did see some contact, but it wasn't the case that it was the contact that triggered his drive-through penalty, but that final piece of contact triggered that drive-through penalty, and because of the gap that he did have over the rest of his AM colleagues, he was still able to take the win after serving his penalty. Pleased as punch for that, and I think he's looking forward to the race at round number 5, which is the Hungaroring. But now we come to interviewing our Pro-Am winner, and that is Callum Reid Garton. Let's get him in here.
Yeah.
Hello, Callum. Can you hear me?
I can.
Callum, another fantastic drive from yourself, albeit this time from much further down the field. How's it feel to have taken the win in the feature?
Yeah, it was a great race. Really, really good race. Feel bad for Hodges though. He had a brilliant race. He had really good pace, and I think Billy was just telling me he had a bit of a spin coming out of Maggots and Beckett's, which cost him 20 seconds. He had a 20-second lead at one stage, and because of that off, it cost him the race. But yeah, it is what it is.
We did see that the fact that Hodges had a moment, I didn't realise it had cost him that amount of time. So as a result, it's understandable why you'd say feel a bit sorry for him. But focusing on your race, quite a chaotic start. Again, much like we saw in the sprint race, with some cars going into the stratosphere down the Wellington Straight. Where were you in all of that sort of carnage and the chaos that was happening? And what were you doing to try to avoid it?
I just missed it. I got through turn 1 and 2, and that was a bit sketchy. And then I saw in my mirror like there was cars going up into the sky and stuff. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But I think I got in the stream. It showed you where I pulled over and I had to slow down loads because I had a off track, and it gave me a really, really bad slowdown. And I was trying to reduce it, but it kept adding on. So I had no choice but to like park the car there, which was not adequate, but I didn't have any other choice, otherwise I would have got a penalty. But yeah, that dropped me down quite a lot. I lost a lot of time because of that. And then from then on, yeah, just clean and tidy race, just take it as it comes. And yeah, got lucky towards the end.
Oh, indeed. And with the slowdown, we did see you going very slowly for a period of time. Thank you for clarifying that it was a slowdown that never seemed to want to go away until it made you pretty much park the car on the circuit. But with regards to coming through the field, over the course of it, there were multiple instances where we saw you having to scythe your way, not just past your colleagues in the Pro-Am class, but also other drivers in the different classes as well. I have to ask, what's the knack for getting through the field, particularly when you're having to duke it out with drivers in a different class?
I think it's just awareness of just know who you're racing, who's around you, expect different lines, different braking points. So I always tend, when I'm following people, regardless of what class they're in, I'll always tend to let off a little bit so I can brake properly, so I know what they're doing first. Just generally safer driving, only because if you're not safe, you're going to ruin someone else's race, and it's going to ruin your own race. So I tend to take it steady. I can be aggressive if I want to, but obviously I'd sooner not to with such of a big grid size that we have. in our lobby. So yeah, I tend to take it steady, but yeah.
Well, understandably so, and steady and stable, sometimes the name of the game. And looking ahead to the Hungaroring in a week's time, a circuit where overtaking comes at a premium. How are you feeling for the first circuit in continental Europe?
It's going to be a funny one because I don't think the BMW is going to be brilliant. But make the most of what I can make out of it. So.
Alrighty, well, we do look forward to seeing you take to the Hungaroring circuit in a week's time. But until then, congratulations on making it 2 wins out of 2 at Silverstone. And we'll thank you for joining us as always in the interview room.
Thanks, Paul. Take care.
You too. So hearing there from Callum Reid Garton, very happy with that performance and feeling, as you're saying there, for Hodges, who was flawless drive, a near flawless drive until one moment at the end cost him 20 seconds of time. And if that mistake had not occurred, then it would be Hodges who would be speaking to rather than Reid Garton. But sometimes that's the way it goes with regards to the racing. I think Garton had a number of lucky escapes with those instants on the open laps in both races, and indeed just avoiding the carnage down at what was the Wellington Straight. And it worked out today to be another perfect run in terms of 2 wins out of 2 within the class. But now we come to talking to our pro winner, and that is Billy Fletcher. Let's get him in here. Hello, Billy. Can you hear me?
Hello, Paul.
Billy, it looked tough out there at Silverstone, but you made it through in the end after a difficult sprint. How does it feel to have recovered to take the win in the feature?
Good. It was. It felt like a bit of redemption for the sprint race. I was kind of winding up to have a crack at Matt. I know the Audi's a bit sketchy for the first couple of laps, so I wanted to just give it a couple of laps, settle in, and then start a push. And we got turned around by Tom Edmonds to turn 3, but yeah, it's a good redemption to get that back in the feature race to win that, and it was hard work coming through, avoiding a lot of carnage at the first 2 laps, and chasing down Landry at the end. He done a fantastic job, and yeah, it's good to chase him down.
Well, we'll come on to your battle and chase with Landry very shortly, because I know there were a number of broken hearts in the chat for Jason Landry towards the end, but we'll come to that in a moment. Just with regards to those opening laps, of course, there was the carnage and the chaos on the opening laps, but we saw you come through the field quite rapidly, and it did seem as though you were trying to get a move on with, I think it was Caruana just behind you at a number of points. Were you trying to keep putting drivers between yourself and Caruana? Because it seems as though every time there was an opportunity, you were trying to take it, whether it's an AM, a Pro-Am, or a Pro in front of you. You just wanted to move up the field.
Yeah, pretty much. Make the most of the sort of the hectic first couple of laps, really. Look for spaces, look for places I could put the car that just meant I made overtakes. I think lap 2 or 3 came through turn 2, and I think I went down the outs between Callum and 2 other Pro-Am cars. We were like 4 wide into turn 3, but it was like the gap was there, so you just kind of had to go. And in regards to Caruana, that was the job, was I could see where he was, and it was just keep putting cars between me and him and hope. I got a bit lucky. Obviously, he had a couple of little issues, but just hope that I could get a few cars between us. And obviously, with the little contact with Tom Mao, it did give me a little bit of a sigh of relief that it kind of got rid of Matt, as he probably was faster than me tonight.
Well, with that moment, of course, you were caught behind Tom Mao for a sizable portion of time, and trying to find a way past Tom Mao took a lot of effort, but in the end you found a way on through. I assume after that you're probably thinking, okay, now the hardest part's done, I've just got to find my way past Mark Fletcher and also Fairclough. Yeah,
I mean, I was confident that the Audi was going to be the better car than BMW. If there's a lot of curb running needed, the Beamer's really strong car. We saw that at Road Atlanta last week. But tracks like Silverstone, it's just an absolute playground for the Audi. It is hard work. It's very sketchy, but as long as you just keep it within its limits, it's such a nice car to drive around there. And to be fair, I'm very good friends with Mark Fletcher. I'll just confirm we're not related. Known each other for a very long time. And he did just move over for me. And we managed to save the extra couple of laps of field as well, which obviously jumped us against Fairclough. And then it was just a case of doing our best to chase down Landry.
Then coming on to the battle with Landry with only with only 2 laps to go, you're right on his heels and then making the pass versus Landry. What was going through your mind in that moment? Because Landry trying to hold you on what was the outside of turn number 15.
To be fair to Landry, as I said, he done a fantastic job and he's a really nice guy to race with. I've had a couple of little races with him and he's fair and he's great enjoyment to race with him. I could see what he was doing, and I knew if I could stick it on the outside and hang on alongside him, I knew he wouldn't squeeze me off the track. That's just trust in drivers that you race against, and he's one of the ones I trust not to try and squeeze me off. So he obviously went defensive. It slowed his entry down, and it was just like a case of, right, hang on to this, and we've got it. And just about managed to put it off.
Well, it was a brilliant move for Lee and a critical move as well. And now, as it's my understanding, taking over the championship lead in the Pro Class once again and heading towards the Hungaroring in a week's time, a circuit where overtaking comes at a premium. What are your thoughts going to the Hungarian circuit?
Not sure. I've only had ever a little bit of running around, and I wasn't particularly quick around there. What I will say is it's all fixed. We are all in the same boat. It's high downforce, I believe, as well, so the Audi should be very strong. But it's going to be the usual. Caruana is going to be rapid. Edmonds is going to be rapid. I gather Rhys Caryl will be back next week as well. He's going to be rapid. Obviously, my teammate Elliott, it's going to be a tough one next week, I think. And I have a feeling the sprint race is going to be a little bit of a concession of how the qualifying goes, but I think the feature race should be an interesting one with how difficult it's going to be to pass.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on at the Hungaroring in a week's time. But until then, thank you for joining us in the interview room and congratulations once again for your win in the feature race.
Cheers, Paul. Take care, mate. Thank you very much.
All the best. So hearing there from Billy Fletcher, and particularly the amount of respect they had for his drivers, his opponents in the Pro Class, battling his way up through the order, and they're talking about that battle with Jason Landry and the sportsmanship and the friendship between the two of them, and also that great racing respect shown. In the end, Billy Fletcher able to snatch the win right at the end. Albeit, I know it did break the hearts of a number of individuals watching, particularly the Delta Motorsport team, but as well as situations where Fletcher saw the opportunity and he took it. But now we look ahead to round number 5. So thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And if you do want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, why not check us out at our official website, that's nextgenracing.co.uk, or our official Facebook group, that's facebook.com/groups/nextgenracing. Also, a big thank you to our partners without whom it would not be possible to be bringing you this series, and that is Apex Racing Academy, our primary sponsor for Lobby 1, I should say. You can check them out at apexracingac.com. But now we look forward to next time. In a week's time, we head to the Hungaroring for round number 5 as we start to head towards the end of the first half of the season. Taking place on Thursday, the 16th of December 2021. In terms of the broadcast, of course, the live actual race occurs on the Wednesday, but we won't be able to bring it to you live. For the Hungaroring is a circuit which is known, as Fletcher was saying there, for its opportunity to create sequential racing, whereby drivers are in a sequence, they're in a queue, there's not too much room to overtake, so as a result the strategy is so critical, and also qualifying is going to be of the utmost importance, as we can see here in the reference lap, the exterior camera reference lap brought to us by Luke McKeown in the Audi R8 as he makes his way around the continental Europe circuit. This track very different from the 4 we've raced at so far, with overtaking being difficult and it being a very tight and twisty circuit. You can imagine there is sure to be drama, there's sure to be action, and there's sure to be some convoluted strategies to overcome the difficulties of the Hungaroring circuit. But with that, that's all we've got time for today. My name has been Paul Walsh, and I hope you've enjoyed this broadcast, and we have been Next Gen Racing. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, from all of us here at Next Gen Racing, remember to stay on track. Good night.